Yes. It is now 6:02 p.m. and I would like to call this meeting to order. I'd like to welcome those who are participating in the Board of Education meeting in person and those watching the meeting via live streaming on YouTube. We would ask that anyone addressing the board to use the microphone at the podium and to identify themselves for the record. As a reminder, the link to the meeting is on the direct webpage under Board of Education. The streaming will run through the end of the meeting. In the event there is a disruption in the audio portion, I will pause the meeting until it is reestablished. Tonight, we have two students here to lead us in the pledge, Mr. Samuel Iguado from Valencia Elementary and Mr. Jackson Martinez from Los Angeles Middle School. Gentlemen, would you join me at the front, please? These are some of the handsomest students we have in the district. I just want you to understand. Dr. Kettler, would you please read the students' bios?
Thank you, Madam President. Samuel Iguado is a sixth grade student at Valencia Elementary. He has attended Valencia Elementary since kindergarten. Samuel wants to be a veterinarian and has plans to open a veterinarian clinic with his cousin Janelli. Samuel is an exceptional student and is always in good spirits. His happiness and positivity are contagious amongst his peers. He is interested in science and completing experiments. He enjoys creating volcanoes that erupt with vinegar and baking soda. Samuel's favorite teacher is his current teacher, Miss Armijo. He stated that Miss Armijo always helps him when needed and is an extremely fun teacher. In Samuel's spare time, he plays basketball and rides horses. Samuel's favorite horse is Skittles. Skittles is his uncle's horse and he rides him several times a week. Riding horses makes him feel free and he enjoys it. He practices doing barrels with Skittles in the arena and enjoys competing when he can. He also enjoys his weekends where he spends time with his family barbecuing and dancing. We are very proud to have Samuel as a model student to represent Valencia Elementary. Our second pledge leader, Jackson Martinez, is an 8th grade student representing Los Lunas Middle School. Jackson lives with his parents, Matthew and Brittany Martinez, and Melissa and Lucas Aragon, along with his 4 siblings. Jackson has shown outstanding academic achievements and his attendance is stellar. In addition, he is an active member of the Los Lunas Middle School Band and has been playing the saxophone for the past 3 years. In his spare time, Jackson loves solving Rubik's Cubes. Jackson is eagerly anticipating attending Los Lunas High School next year and has plans to pursue a career in mechanical engineering after high school. We are very proud of Jackson's many accomplishments and proud to have him represent Los Lunas Middle School. Will you please join Jackson and
Samuel.
thank you, and the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Hold on. There you go.
Yeah.
All right, cheers. There you go. Go, sir. Thank you very much. I'm going to, that's very exciting. Good, good luck. Thank you both very much for that. You did a wonderful job. And at this point in time, parents, if you want to take your children home, you are of course invited to stay, but we understand it's a school night. And thank you very much for honoring us with your children's presence. This moves us to item A2, we're going to ascertain quorum. I apologize. So I will call attendance. Mr. Bruce Bennett.
Here.
Mr. David Vickers.
Here.
Mr. Justin Talley.
Here.
Mrs. Monica Otero.
Here.
And I am present, Dr. Michelle Osowski. Thank you very much. Dr. Kettler, would you please announce the meeting?
Madam President, this meeting has been announced in accordance with the Open Meetings Resolution and is a legally constituted meeting of the Los Lunas Schools Board of Education.
Thank you very much. This now moves us to item C, approval of the prioritized agenda. Dr. Kettler, are there any changes or deletions to the agenda?
Madam President, I have no recommended changes.
Members of the board, do you have any changes that you would like to make to the agenda? I would like to make the following change. I would like to move to amend the prioritized agenda by removing items L, suspending board policy B 2600, and item N, reinstating board policy 2600. I am asking for a second.
I'll second that.
Thank you very much. Is there any discussion?
Can you explain that, please, Dr. Osowski?
The purpose of removing? Previous, in an old policy, we could suspend a policy in order to review a new board policy. With the new board policies that we have, we no longer suspend any policy to look at it for revision. And that comes under Board Policy 2600, I believe. So we no longer have to suspend policies in order to review and revise a proposed or make proposed revisions to a current board policy. Does that help?
Thank you.
It's circular. Any other discussion? Call for the vote. Mr. Vickers,
Yes.
Mrs. Otero,
Yes.
Mr. Bennett,
Yes.
Mr. Talley,
Yes.
and I vote yes, motion passes. This now moves us to item D, Superintendent of Schools Report. I will now turn this over to Dr. Kettler.
Madam President, members of the board, tonight we have a state champion recognition, a student's representative report from Los Lunas High School, 2 school reports, a construction update, a budget and finance report, and an update on the progress toward a strategic plan. First, I would like to call Athletic Director Wilson Holland to the podium for our state champion recognition.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Kettler, community members. It gives me great honor to be up here and do what we, all of educators like to do, and that is to recognize kids because we're in the kid business. And I would, you go away and get one PowerPoint. That's all right. While we wait for the PowerPoint to come up, I just want to have Logan Talley stand up. And let's give him a round of applause. Thank you. We're here to celebrate Logan Senior at Los Lunas High School. And I want everybody to understand how hard it is to win a state championship at any level. And this young man in 2 days did something spectacular, and we're very happy that he represented Los Lunas High School. Logan is a great student. It's a 3.57. I'm going to give him a 3.6 because I'm rounding up. And that's the most important thing there. And we're very happy about that. He's a great kid and a great person. And that's just a testament to his parents, Mr. and Mrs. Talley, for raising a great young man, a great student, and a great athlete. So we're very happy to have him here. And hats off to his coach, been around here for a long time, Steve Chavez. Thank you. This is the bracket. It was not easy for anyone to do what he did, and he went through that and pretty much dominated everyone. We're very excited. Got to watch some on the stream. Steve, Coach Chavez was always in contact with me and some other people giving us an update. So we're very happy that he had the opportunity to represent us. Like I said, he had dedication, commitment, determination, and had to be resilient. The state championship didn't happen on that Saturday. This young man's been training for this all his life. And these things occur when you're 4 and 5 years old. And if you live in Valencia County, you're in junior wrestling. And that's what they do here in Valencia County. I guess that's why I'm still the AD here, because I know wrestling's king. And we just got a lot of good athletes here. So again, you guys have that bracket up there, and you can see what he has done and what he has accomplished in 2 days. But this is just an accumulation of his years and years of hard work. So hats off to that young man. Next. Career record, as you can see, outstanding. Had a great career at Los Lunas High School. Again, I'll just say it, to do what he's done all year and has a cumulative GPA of 3.6. That takes a lot. And he was, again, a great student. And Logan, we just want to say thank you. We're very proud of you. You went and wrestled those 2 days and showed everybody what wrestling was and what wrestling is at Los Angeles High School. So this is the school district, the athletic department, and after talking to Sharkey, it's just great. And thank you for putting us on the map in 2024. Logan Talley, 2024, 5A at 189-pound state champ. Come on up. Let's move forward. Can we get a picture with the board president, his father and Dr. Kettler? Yeah.
Yes. Sure. Board members, if you join me, do you want us in front? Is it easier for the picture? Yeah.
Yeah, all board members, please. Thank you. Yeah. No, I'm good. That's pictures of me in the bed. No, I'm good. Steve, are you Sharkey here? Thank you. Hey, Logan, one last thing. What you've done is hard. We appreciate it. Nobody can ever take this away from you. When you come back 10 and 15 years to your class reunion, you're always a Tiger and you're always a state champ. So thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Holland. I just want to point out one thing.
Yes, sir.
Last year, his record was 32-5, not 25-5.
So I appreciate that. Do me a favor, you talk to Sharkey, I have the email, I was like, send me the stats, Sharkey, and that's what he did me, and I said, did you double check that? Because if you didn't, there's someone on that board that's gonna know. So I'm gonna get after Sharkey about that one, but thank you for that update. Lord, we apologize, go talk to Sharkey. Thank you. I'm sorry, any more questions?
Yeah, thank you.
All right, thank you, guys.
Dr. Kettler.
Madam President, members of the board, I'm pleased to invite Jason Ussery to the podium this evening. Jason is our student representative for this evening. He is a senior at Los Lunas High School and has been attending Los Lunas School since elementary school. Jason lives at home with his parents, Ryan and Ashley. He is currently ranked first in his class with a GPA of 4.3. Jason is a fierce competitor and a captain for the football team, as well as the boys track team. He earned first team all district honors and all metro honors this season. He is excited to get back on the track and hopes to place in state this year. Jason also attends most of our home sporting events to cheer on his fellow Tigers. Jason is a member of the National Honor Society, where he serves his community for over 50 hours a semester. He is employed by Dion's in Los Lunas and works as a committed team member to serve the community. Jason's future plans include going to college at Bucknell University to play football. He plans to major in animal science to become a zoologist, and his dream would be to become a zoologist and work at the Central Park Zoo in New York City. Jason was chosen to represent Los Lunas High School by our staff for not only his accomplishments in the classroom and athletics, but his overall positive attitude on campus. Jason was described as being quiet, but very passionate when he speaks. He is able to draw the attention of a crowd. He always gives 100% to everything he does and always remains committed to his goals. Jason embodies the spirit of a Tiger. He is hardworking, dedicated, relentless, and kind to all. Jason truly represents what it means to be a Los Lunas Tiger, and we are confident that he will continue to make us and his family proud. Jason, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. Good evening, Board President Ozowski, members of the board, Superintendent Kettler. Thank you for having me this evening and allowing me to speak to you about Los Lunas High School. Now that the second semester of the 2023-2024 school year is in full effect, let me give you a rundown of what happened at Los Lunas High School. During the month of February, there were a lot of things going on at our school, which allowed for a very fun environment. Of course, everyone was looking forward to the basketball games and wrestling matches. However, we had a prep assembly, and of course, the seniors won the spirit stick and had a pretty amazing class dance. Personally, I had a great month as I got into Bucknell University and was able to have a signing day at the high school to go play football in college. I'm very grateful for the support that I got from the entire community during the whole college process. Starting the new semester, I could definitely tell that the vibe had changed with the seniors. We're getting very excited and also nervous because of how fast the school year is going. We only have 2 months until we graduate, and everyone is trying to make the most of it while we can. We're definitely excited about the upcoming events such as rubbing ceremony, painting the hill, and our senior pranks. I'm so thankful for all my friends and the great staff for making this school year so memorable. I will never forget my senior year and wouldn't change a thing. I'm so lucky to be able to call this school my second home and will forever be a Tiger. Moving on, winter sports have made us proud this year, with the wrestling team taking 5th in state and one of our amazing wrestlers, Logan Talley, taking 1st in his weight class. Another team that did great this year was our boys basketball team. They placed 7th at state and fell to a great Oregon Mountain team that eventually made it to the finals. The girls basketball team also made the state tournament as a 14th seed and had a tough matchup against number 3 Farmington. Despite the loss, they're excited about the future. Now that the winter sports are wrapping up, some of the spring sports have begun their season. Starting their season is our baseball team and softball team. Both teams are showing great potential and have high expectations for the season. Next is track. We have our first meets coming up in March, and all the athletes are very excited to start competing on the track. Tigerettes are preparing for their competition in Texas, where they have high expectations of placing. Along with Tigerettes, the cheer team has been working on their state routine for their state competition on April 6th. The tennis team has also started the season with a few matches already and are looking very promising. The golf team has started up practice and are looking very good this season with quite a few seniors on the team. Other activities that are happening around the school are Student Council, Class Council, National Honor Society, HOSA, and Lending a Paw. Currently, Student Council attended the state competition in February and had a really good showing. While the Student Council does their thing, Class Council has been working on prom, which is coming up very fast. Prom this year was on April 13th and is at the Sheraton Sunport Hotel, and I couldn't be more excited. HOSA is another group that has been working hard, and they're very excited for their state competition coming up on April 11th. The National Honor Society has been working hard to bring joy to the community and just held an ACONT for the youth on March 17th. Last but not least, we have an excellent group of individuals who lead the Lending a Paw Club. They continuously get donations for their free thrift shop at the high school, along with selling Dion's Pizza at lunch to fund their projects. That being said, I want to thank you guys for allowing me the opportunity to speak with you all today.
Thank you very much. Other questions from the members of the board? Mr. Bickers?
Which college was it you want to go to?
I'm going to Bucknell University. It's in Pennsylvania, Lewisburg, Pennsylvania.
Okay, great. Do you have an offer yet?
Yeah, I'm going to play football there.
Oh, very good. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Mrs. Otero?
I just want to congratulate you on all of your academic and athletic accomplishments and also on your upcoming graduation. You have incredible plans for your future and I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Mr. Bennett?
Yeah, I'd like to thank you also for being such a good representative of Los Lunas, you and also Logan for doing such fine work up at the high school, and I wish you a lot of good luck there in the future.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Talley?
I just want to echo the comments of the other board members. Congratulations and still expect good things from you and good luck in the future.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
I have a few questions. Track, what event?
I run hurdles.
You
and
run hurdles.
That's my main event.
And how did you do at the last meet?
Pretty good. It's our first meet, so it's a little shaky.
It was a little
Like,
cold too.
Yeah, it was a little
Sort of
cold, not the
tricky.
best weather, but it was good. Good start. So,
Good.
something
Well, I'm
increase.
perplexed about zoology. What got you interested in zoology?
I just like animals. I think it'd be fun. I want to deal with like the exotic animals, prefer think it'd be cool to like be able to deal with the bigger animals and take care of them and stuff.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Just double checking on that one. Congratulations on a signing date. That had to just be surreal.
Yeah, it was a great day. I've been dreaming about that for a while, so it's good.
Was it everything that you wanted?
Yeah, and more. I was very happy. I saw to the seniors last year be able to do that. And I knew I wanted to be able to do that my senior year, so have to be able to make it happen.
Well, your GPA is impressive. Your
Mhm.
work in the community is impressive. You are an outstanding individual. We're very proud to have you in our schools and in our community. We wish you the very best of luck, and we look forward to shaking your hand in about 2 months and celebrating you as the valedictorian, it sounds like.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thanks for coming. Thank you,
course.
parents, for sharing your child with us. We appreciate having such a high-quality individual here before us and talking about one of our high schools. So thank you very much for taking the time, and thank you very much for raising such a high-quality young man that we look forward to watching him grow. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam President, members of the board, the first of 2 school reports this evening will be presented by Sharissa Jaramillo, principal at Valencia Elementary School.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, and Dr. Kettler. I am Sharissa Hadabil, the principal of Valencia Elementary. I would like to take a second to give our attention to our awesome staff at Valencia Elementary. If you would stand up, who's here, and I know some weren't able to make it, so thank you. Thank you, guys. All right. So at Valencia Elementary, our staff is committed to teaching the curriculum at a rigorous level while using the Los Lunas Schools district pacing guides. The guides assist with keeping a clear focus during various timeframes. Our staff is committed to teaching the district adopted programs and using learning targets to give the students a daily focus and learning goal. Next slide. Oh, thank you. At Valencia Elementary, we have a computer lab and a separate learning innovations lab. Our innovations lab is filled with various coding bots such as Q and Dash. The bots allow students to code at different levels to teach programming through exploration and discovery. We also have a weekly Jaguar news clip that is created by students. Students use advanced technologies such as the green screen equipment and podcast equipment to make this possible. We also have monthly technology meetings to enhance student learning. Each month, a new grade level presents new technology discoveries with staff. Our staff also has district support from our digital learning coaches and from our technology leader at our school. At Valencia Elementary, we use translator earbuds and bilingual staff members to provide translations for students and parents as needed. Staff also uses Google Translate to further create an inclusive learning environment. We also have Remind set up for our families in their preferred languages. Students also receive tutoring on Amira, which can be in English or in Spanish. Next slide. At Valencia Elementary, students utilize Beable, an online literacy platform, to enhance their reading skills. We also have a career awareness team that plays a crucial role in helping students explore and understand various career opportunities. The team organizes representation days where students learn about careers associated with their RIASAC code colors, conducts career exploration interviews with administration, and we host events like Career Night in the spring to expose students to professionals from diverse fields. Next slide. Our social and emotional team has a huge impact on students' lives. We have trained our staff on utilizing calming corners for all students in every classroom. We also have social and emotional reading buddies across all grade levels. Our school also has a breakfast club. If a student struggles to start off their day right, they go to the breakfast club where they eat with our inclusion support coach. This allows them to do a daily check-in, which typically results in the student feeling more regulated, and then the student is often ready to start their day independently. We also continue to uplift our students by nominating the students for the You Are Important to Me project and with positive principal phone calls. Both give staff an opportunity to recognize students on why they are such an important and valuable member of our school community. Next slide, please. So our data at Valencia Elementary has shown growth in many grade levels across various content areas. As you can see, our K-2 students take the iStation assessment and are showing improvement in reading and math. I would like to highlight that Kinder had a 13% increase in proficient students in reading and a 10% increase in math. Our 3rd through 6th grade students took the IMSSA assessment, and I would like to point out that in third grade, there was a 19% increase in reading for our on-target students, and that in 6th grade, there was a 20% increase in math for our on-target students. After reviewing our data, we have added an additional piece to our math block, which are number talks. Number talks are brief daily discussions in math class where students share and discuss various strategies for solving problems, fostering a deeper understanding of mathematical concepts. Our staff has had professional development and have had number talks modeled for them in their classrooms. We can clearly see the benefits in adding number talks to the sequence of the math lessons 3 times a week. We believe that building on our students' mental math skills will increase student growth across all grade levels. We also plan to focus on a variety of engagement strategies to increase engagement in all content areas. At Valencia Elementary, we have a wealth of expertise in various areas. We have had professional development on engagement strategies, number talks, technology, and so much more. Our leadership team continues to support teachers with modeling lessons and with constructive feedback during walkthrough sessions. Our learning innovation coach also offers coaching cycles for teachers that want additional support. In addition, teachers are given 2 one-hour planning days a week with their grade level teams. Next slide, please. At Valencia Elementary, we prioritize family engagement through various initiatives. Our commitment is evident through monthly classroom newsletters and weekly remind announcements that keep parents informed about school and classroom activities. We have had a literacy paint day, career night combined with math and science night. Our community involvement team ensures a strong connection between the school and the community. Our parent-teacher committee with staff also organizes exciting events such as the Color Run, Fall Festival, Spring Family Dance, and Renaissance Assemblies, which create opportunities for families to come together, celebrate, and actively participate. Next. Elementary, the safety and the well-being of our students is always a top priority. We utilize advanced technology and strategic practices to ensure a secure learning environment. The Stop It app and the Rave app are an additional safety measures that we take, which allow students and staff to report concerns and emergencies promptly. Our school resource officer and counselor, they also complete Rocket Live lessons, which is shown here in this picture. The class of 1st grade students, they're learning about calling 911 in an emergency situation. Following all drills, debriefs are conducted to assess and enhance preparedness. We also have monthly safety meetings that serve as forums for continuous improvements and collaboration. We also have a school resource officer that adds an extra layer of security. All staff are committed to maintaining a safe and secure atmosphere for everyone at Valencia Elementary. Thank you very much, and I will now stand for any questions.
Thank you very much. That was a very nice presentation.
Thank you.
Mr. Rickers, do you have any questions?
No.
Mrs. Otero?
I don't have any questions, but thank you for your presentation. It's really good to see everything that your school's doing to help the students excel in different areas.
Thank you. Mr. Bennett.
Yeah, I'd like to say, it's nice you're using that green screen. Looks like we might have some future news or weather person coming out of there.
Yes,
And, is that breakfast club open to everybody?
yes. And we also accept donations for donuts at any time. Yes, yes. It is open to anyone in the school as well if you need to join one day. So you're not feeling regulated.
Mr. Tally?
Just a couple quick questions.
Okay,
In the technology slide, you said something about Q and Dash,
yes.
but I didn't quite catch what Q and Dash are.
So Q and Dash are two different types of robots. One is geared toward K through 2 students, and the other one is more towards 3 through 6 students. And I could be off by a grade level, but it's more towards the level of coding and how difficult it is. So the different robots we're able to differentiate with our students while they code.
Did students give them the names, or is that,
That is the name of the robots.
That's okay, all right. You also spoke about having 2 one-hour planning days a week.
Yes.
Maybe go into a little more detail about that and how that's helped the
So, on Tuesday and Thursdays, that's where we have built in our master schedule where the teachers are given an hour of planning time. But in addition to that, on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, they also have an additional, I think it's 35 minutes of planning time. So, but that is a time that we have one with support and one without support. So what I mean by with support is typically our learning innovations coaches there, administration's there when possible. So it's just a variety of staff members that's there to work with the team as they're collaborating and planning.
Does the team get training at that time as well, or is that more?
We try to protect that time. If we are gonna do training, we try to do that during our staff meetings, but there has been a time or two this year where we did respectfully ask the teachers to put us on their agenda for the collaboration time.
All right, and just one more, the safety and security. You
Yes,
spoke about the stop it and rave.
yes.
Have those been helpful, or are they used frequently, or is it?
So the Stop It app, I believe, is very effective. I think it has helped in certain situations, even over spring break or somebody that is, in need for help. I believe that has been really effective as far as students reporting anonymous tips on what is going on or something that can be life-threatening. So I have seen the benefits in Stop It. The Rave app, we just have had it for about a month and a half. So I can see the benefits as well. It's a panic button. So we have yet to use that, but I can see where that would be helpful because our school functions off of radios. And of course, if there's someone in the building, we don't want to be on a radio. So I can see the benefits in the Rave app when needed. Yes,
Awesome, thank you.
of course.
Thank you for your presentation. I have a couple of questions.
Awesome.
Your career awareness team.
Yes,
So you have kinder through 6th grade participating in career awareness. Is that
yes,
what I understand?
yes.
So what kind of presentations happen for kindergartners and first or early elementary?
So let me clarify a little bit that is more of staff. And that's where we come together and we plan the events for the students. So we have a math and science and career night coming up on this Thursday. So we, as a team, we come together and we plan those type of events. Anything involved with careers and Beable and anything that we feel that would give our students the opportunity to continue to explore.
I was impressed with how many strategies your school has in terms of connecting with students. So the "you are important to me," where did you come up with that idea?
It was our counselor from last year. She brought it to us, but I think that came from the district, to be honest with you. So there was a training and she was like, we got to do this. It's great. It's fantastic. Teachers nominate any staff member nominates anybody. We bring them up to the office. We announce them on the intercom in the morning and we celebrate them and we tell them why they are important and what they did. And you can just see it in their eyes the minute that we tell them like why they are so important to us. They glow and they're just extremely excited just to hear it. I mean, even as adults, we like to hear compliments, right? So,
I'm very impressed with
Yeah.
that. That's really a very nice thing that you're doing. The data for your on targets, what are you doing for our students that are at this time of the year still in the lower levels in terms of proficiency?
so for our struggling students, what I have seen during planning time and whenever I went in during the observations is teachers are continuously pulling students back for small group instruction and they're differentiating as needed. They always do the whole group instruction at the tier 1 instruction, but if a student needs help, what I have seen is they give them the on-the-spot instruction help while they're teaching. They'll pull them back. They work with them one-on-one. So it just depends on the teacher and their style of how they're helping those students identify their areas of need and close those achievement gaps too.
Great, thank you very much. Thank you. You're welcome. Dr. Kettler.
Thank you, Mrs. Jaramillo.
Thank you.
Madam President, members of the board, our second school report this evening is from our second school report this evening is from Dr. Nimra Marquez and team. Dr. Marquez is the principal at Los Lunas Middle School.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Kettler, and community. I want to start off real quick, we are from Los Lunas Middle School. I want to start off by acknowledging some of our staff members that were able to attend this evening. If you would quickly stand up. So it's going to come work for me now, I guess. As Dr. Kettler mentioned, my name is Nimra Marcus. I am the principal and I have my administrative team with me here this evening, Miss Melissa Dyatt and Mr. Jared Story. So starting off looking at our curriculum at Los Lunas Middle School for English, we have Amplify Math. We use middle school math, science is STEM scopes, and social studies is McGraw-Hill. We're working on some of our CTE stuff currently as we're moving forward into next year for some of our elective classes. Our technology that we use as a tool for learning and creativity in our classrooms. We are a one-to-one school, as everybody knows that here in Los Lunas. All of our students have iPads school-wide. Our teachers have MacBooks as well as iPads. All of our curriculum that our teachers use in their classrooms are fully digitized. We utilize Canvas. All of the curriculum that I noted in the last slide is fully digitized. We also offer elective classes for our students, which is coding. Much like Sharissa mentioned, our coding classes work with different robots. We also offer computer applications for elective classes. At how we support our students and give them the opportunity to learn in multiple languages. Our English language learners have access to English language development classes. They are grouped with an English class for their English class each day. They also have access to Time Kettle multi-language translator earbuds. Those are for our monolingual students. Additionally, with that, we also have support from our district TESOL TOSA. In addition to that support, we also have support from our district Native American liaison who is on campus.
The opportunity for career growth includes the Be Able program, which is, as the previous principal mentioned, the literacy applications to career exploration. We have an upcoming career fair on Thursday, May 2nd, 2024, which we will have numerous presenters all the way from Kirtland Air Force Base. Our science teacher, Mr. Morales, will be bringing in National Guard, which he is an active member of, and we will be bringing a variety of presenters from across the fields. Highlighted on our slide, you will see the School Links curriculum that is utilized in the 8th grade career exploratory elective. The Find Your Path, which is the blue and green slide, is an assessment that is done as the students first come into the class. And it matches them with the career cluster. So the blue, you'll see the different career clusters that are available and how they were matched. And then they do a find your path assessment, which breaks it down for further information for them to figure out within those career clusters what might be something more of interest to them. The slide on the left indicates their career aspirations and the level of secondary training. The highest in the yellow is the 4-year college degree. The green is a 2-year, and then we had a number of students who were interested in joining the military, which is blue. Next slide, please. Our SEL team holds monthly meetings to plan activities for our students and staff. We include activities. Each department was tasked with having snacks that they bring, so we incorporate all of the departments. And then we have an activity that's planned by our SEL team so that we have kind of icebreakers, fun games that we do just to kind of add an additional component to our monthly staff meetings. We have school and student and staff competitions. Mr. Story brings out his DJing skills and brings our kids out dancing one Friday a month so that we have a little bit of entertainment for our school lunches. And then we have incorporated everybody's favorite, which is food. And you can see that the slide there, we did a Indian taco meal for our staff on their very first parent-teacher conference. And I want to shout out Ana Baca and Olga Hernandez, who are custodians who helped us roll the dough. And then a bunch of the staff took turns frying the fried bread. So it was a really good experience for everybody to interact with. Next slide, please. The data outcomes here show our comparison between our beginning of the year IMESA and our middle of the year IMESA. You can see that across the board, the top left is our math scores. We did meet our first goal for our 90-day plan, our growth. We had a 10% growth on targets. Our reading is on the top right, and we had a 2% growth across the board for 7th and 8th grade. And we also have our language usage, which was up 13% across the board for 7th and 8th grade. Those two scores were combined to making steps towards our growth for our end of the year goal.
All right, so one of the things that we do in regards to professional development is we host obviously our monthly staff meetings. And we've had different focuses throughout. We've had our wonderful ed tech team come in and present different technology strategies. We've had one of our teachers who's doing his internship to become an administrator, do a couple presentations as well, looking at data and stuff like that. So we've kind of incorporated a little bit of everything through our staff meetings. We have our monthly PLC PDs with our learning innovation coach. So Andrea Evans is our learning innovation coach. She spends one PLC a month, taking up a little bit of time to go over different strategies. She's looked at classroom management. She's looked at digging into the different curriculums that we have, and she's done a really great job with our staff, and our teachers are really appreciative of that. Obviously, we have our professional development days that we've had once a month throughout the year that our staff is excited about and gets to plan and collaborate with other teachers from across the district. And then we've actually had a few teachers go to some offsite professional conferences. We had our math department attend the mid-school math conference. I believe it was a few weeks ago in Santa Fe. It was a national conference, and you know, our school and as well as Valencia Middle School have been excited to use that. Our math department is they're on a new level of excitement utilizing this new curriculum. Next slide. Our family engagement, obviously we had our open house at the beginning of the year, which we get quite a bit of parents and family out. And during that open house, we also had our Title I parent meeting going over what Title I is. We had our fall night of fun that coincided around Halloween and Dia de los Muertos, which was really exciting because we had our ed tech team doing some activities there. We had our art teacher, Miss Estrada, do some activities. We even had our TESOL TOSA do Dia de los Muertos, and we had our Native American liaison as well doing some cultural engagement, their activities with it. So it was really fun. We had the Village of Los Lunas, we had car clubs, and that was probably our most exciting thing, as well as Miss Cedillo's amazing band. showed up and performed with the high school band. So, and that was early in the year, and I mean, they're amazing. Now they're even better. So we had a food drive during Thanksgiving. It was for our student staff basketball game. It was a buy-in. We ended up donating somewhere around 12 to 15 boxes completely full to the Los Lunas Fire Department, which was donated to families and those in need around our community. And then, like Ms. Dye mentioned, we have our career night coming up that our TOSAs are working really hard with us on bringing in people from all around the community and the state to make our school fun. Next slide and last slide. All right, our safety and security, we want to give a shout out to our SRO, Officer Joe Grego, and then our two security officers, Rosalie and Anthony. We have over 750 students at Los Lunas Middle School, and we couldn't do it, just the three of us and just our staff. They are an amazing team. They, like we mentioned earlier with the Stop It app, they are on every Stop It app. I mean, before we even have a chance to look at our phone or email with the Stop It app, they're already bringing in students, talking to them, and then going about that. And they've done a great job keeping our school safe. We have obviously our monthly emergency drills that we collaborate with and talk about what we can do better or what we can fix for the next time. And then all of our staff spends time on duty stations, and obviously that's for the safety of our students, but to build relationships with our kids as well. I can't say enough great things about our staff and the people at Los Lunas Middle School that make Los Lunas Middle School the best school in the district. Lastly. Questions?
Thank you very much for your presentation. We appreciate it. Mr. Vickers, you have questions?
Sounds like you guys do a great job. And you're one of the students that grew up in this school district, correct?
Yes, I'm a proud graduate of Valencia High School, 2012.
And Ann Parrish.
And Ampere.
And where my kids went, you were one of my kids' classmates.
Share a birthday with them.
Yeah. Good job. Good to see you turning around and contributing and. Following you.
Mrs.
Good
Otero?
job. Thanks.
I don't have questions. Thank you for your presentation and thank you for you and your staff for everything you do for the children.
Mr. Bennett?
Yes, I'm glad you mentioned about your teachers going out to these conferences. That's something I think that's very important to give them a new breath on life and come back with some good information. Hope this district continues doing that service for you also. I'm glad to see you moving on. Appreciate it.
Mr. Talley?
Yeah, thank you very much for your presentation. It's great. Couple questions. First, on the talk about being able to program robots and things like that. Do you by chance know what language they're programming? And is it one that they can carry throughout? They continue to follow in a technical field?
I apologize. I do not know. I know we just ordered new ones. Mrs. Montano had helped us this last year with CTE money to purchase new ones. The coding teacher, Mr. Ruiz, had asked because he said that our robots were already becoming outdated. And so we were able to go to Mrs. Montano and she came up with some funding for us to be able to purchase new ones. I apologize. I do not know.
The language. Python. Swift.
And second question on your slide with the data outcome, you show math, reading, and language. I understand what's included in math and reading. What all is included in language?
So language usage, you want to think it is more grammar.
Okay.
Is so that's the easy explanation and the quick one. And so we're looking at grammar as far as not so much reading and the comprehension of it. We're looking at the writing aspect of it.
And part of that writing, is it all done on computers, or are kids doing some writing by hand and learning? I've seen some.
So really at Los Lunas Middle School, we do have a really good mix. Our teachers are using, our iPads to do work, but we also have children that are using, it's a huge mix of pen and pencil. So it's kind of like the mid-school math program. There's the whole digitized component, but they also still have a workbook where they, put pen to paper.
Perfect, thank you.
I have a few questions. Thank you also for your presentation. So talking about the career exploratory elective option, and how students have been matched with potential careers and then also their aspirations. Do you then carry this forward to help them plan their high school path?
So that is part of the School Links program. I know that there's probably somebody else that could speak a little bit more on the program, but School Links is going to be a program that we use in the future to register our students at the high school level.
So we're not doing that currently, but it's planned for the future? Okay, okay. In terms of your data, I saw on the map, we have a minus 14% for needs support. Can you help me understand what that data means?
So need support means that the students who are coming in at the lowest level of math comprehension and proficiency. So when we are looking at that minus 14%, we decreased our beginning of the year number by 14% in that area. And we moved a lot of that, then you slide in your proficient and your on target. So you're moving those numbers over. So when we are looking at need support, we want to see a high negative number, because that means we've moved that student out of the category into the next two potential categories. And so part of that number, we've slid that minus 14% over, and then we ended up with 10% more students on target in math. So that's a good sign that the kids are making gains in their areas.
Do you have a posit about what possibly could be helping move?
So
students?
they talked about mid-school math. Mid-school math was piloted by Valencia Middle School, and at our first, I sit in with the math team. And Valencia Middle School was very excited. We were there. They did a pitch about it. Our teachers got really excited about it. About mid-September, we shifted from our previous math curriculum into mid-school math. And now there's a whole component. The mid-school math is the only program that's actually based out of New Mexico. So it starts out with an observe and learn video. And what happens is they're talking about different things they've gone. They did there's a unit on Roswell and the aliens, and there's a unit on traveling up to the mountains in northern New Mexico. And then they all have math components to it. So what happens is the students get to observe that video lesson, and then they're just asking them, what are you noticing? And it can be anything. And then it progresses into what are you noticing mathematically? And then it moves into then it comes back and it reteaches the lesson, and it talks about the math components of it, and then it works them through the process. I observe our math team. And so in one of the units, it happened to be about feeding farm animals. And so a lot of the discussions that happened in the classroom, because of where we're located, students were talking about, oh, I have to, when I go feed my horses, I have to measure this much so that I can tell my dad how much we need, or when we go to the store. So they're able to make a lot more real world connections to it. And the kids are excited, and you're seeing that kind of more connectivity to the math that's happening.
It's very exciting. The 2% growth in reading, do you have a plan to address that?
So with that, we have already started to address that, because these are middle of the year. One of the things that we're doing is the reading program that we use at Los Angeles Middle School is Amplify. So next week we have the Amplify trainers, and they're going to be doing a training and a coaching cycle with our English teachers. So that is just one step. Additionally, another step is just we've been working on interventions in the classroom.
I think that is the end for me. Thank you very much. Thank you for
Thank
being here.
you.
Thank you, staff, for participating. At this point in time, we're going to take a brief 6-minute break. We will see everybody back here at 7:03. Give them a chance to take it. This meeting. Meeting to order, please. Dr. Keller, if you would continue with item D4, please, the construction report.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. Tiffany McMahon, Director of Maintenance and Construction, will provide us with a brief construction update this evening.
Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Dr. Kettler, thank you for having us tonight, representing our department. We just wanted to do a couple little updates. We have some slides here. These are two canopies. The top one's Tomet Elementary and the bottom is Desert View. It is now complete at Desert View, so that was a picture taken a couple weeks ago. These were canopies that we were able to construct utilizing the ESSER funds for outdoor classroom and lunch spaces. We still have one more canopy that will be going up at Sundance Elementary with that funding. The next slide is from Peralta. We want to thank you for participating in our groundbreaking ceremony that happened before spring break. And the project, as many of you have probably seen, is fully underway over there. We currently have done excavation on some of the pad areas. They're doing it in 4 phases. So as they finish one phase, they'll go to the next pad, the next and the other. So they have completed one that includes the over excavate down, and then they bring that back up with GeoGrid base course to meet all the compaction. So that's what's going on at Peralta currently. And we're on schedule still on that project. Other projects we have going on in the district is our Valencia Middle School window and door project is fully underway. And we also have a project happening at Special Services, which we're putting up security fencing and an automatic gate system for the parking lot to secure that area, to try to mitigate some of the issues we've been having with some break-ins in the evenings and on the weekends there. So that is also happening. And if there's any questions that you may have.
Any questions from the members of the board?
On Valencia Middle School, where are we at? Have they done all the windows or?
What we've done is they started with some of the exterior doors that were to the bathrooms, utility rooms, such as our electrical rooms, mechanical rooms, and got all those completed. Now we're working pod at a time. So they'll start with one pod, replace the exterior windows and the doors all at once. Once that's completed, then we'll transfer students into those classrooms, do the next pod, and so forth. So we're going to use one pod we have available in and we've made empty space there so we can transfer classes. So continuing with education and then doing the next pod. And then it'll continue so forth until we hit the summer months where they'll be able to do multiple pods at one time and kind of get the bulk of the work done. But this helps us gradually continue that project. So we're able to complete it in anticipation, hopefully for the beginning of the next school year.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Mrs. Otero, questions? No. Mr. Bennett? Mr. Tower? I have one question for Peralta Elementary. There was some concern about students who walk or ride their bicycles, that there was an appropriate pathway that was designated for them as opposed to having to go up through traffic. Has that been resolved? Has that been brought to your attention?
That has not been brought to my attention. I am not aware. I know we do have some students that have always used the crosswalk at the lights. And we're not interfering with any construction at that point at the main entrance of the school, nor the crosswalk is being impeded by any construction.
Okay. Thank you very much. I have no other questions.
Thank you. Thank you.
Dr. Kettler.
Madam President, members of the board, Chief Finance Officer Sandy Tracek will provide us with a budget finance report this evening.
Okay, Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Dr. Kettler. Oh, that's one I want first. Boy, it's small on there. Sorry about that. Okay, perfect. Okay, this is just to kind of show you how we are today, how we're looking whenever you do budget, there are lots of times, there's a lot of estimates that are made, guesses that are made, how, how something changes, how it's gonna be affected. And at the time, when I did the budget, I estimated what our revenue is going to be for operational. And if you look at the right, that bar shows the number that I have estimated for our revenue in operational. The other three on the other side show each month, starting July, year-to-date, July through December, July through January, and then July through February, the revenue that we've received. And so if you look at the July through February, and then you're looking at the amount budgeted, you still see a gap there. And so off to the right, I did kind of put something off to the side to show what we receive when it comes to our large SEG that comes in for operational. We receive monthly payments, so we receive 1/12 of it each month, and that is the $8.7 million that we receive, and we have 4 months left. And so if you calculate the 4 months left, you get the 34,931,000 expected to receive, to be coming in the next 4 months. And then you add that with what's already come in revenue, and you can see that the total then would be at $105 million there, which I only have budgeted estimating 104. So we are on track. We are on track to actually receive more money than I had estimated in revenue. So since I will always estimate conservatively. Then the next graph shows the actual expenses. So when you look at these, when it just says expenses, year-to-date expenses, those are actual checks that have been written, whether it's a check we process through accounts payable or a payroll check that's been received. So this is actually everything that has gone out for positive already expensed. So if you look at, again, I went through July through December, the next month, July through January, and then July through February, you can see where we're at and what has actually gone out the door versus the amount that we have budgeted that we are allowed to spend. And in looking at on the right, if you look at the amount that's been expensed, the 58 million versus the $126 million budget we're allowed to spend, the remaining amount is the 53.45% that we still have left to spend, that we are available to spend. So that would be everything that has truly gone out the door. The next graph below it is what has already gone out the door plus encumbrances. So when you look at this slide, this shows a lot less remaining of the budget to go out. So encumbrances include everything that we are obligated to by sending out a purchase order, or every time someone on contract like myself, what I will make the next few months all the way up until June 30th. So everyone who has been paid on a contract, those expenses are already accounted for. So it looks like, we only have remaining 23% left, which seems low at this point in time, but it's not, because it's also taking fact what we will be spending it up to June 30th. So the majority of that is going to happen for sure. There are some encumbrances where we open up purchase orders for, say, ancillaries and what we assume we might pay for the year. And maybe the purchase order might be larger than what truly happens. So it's kind of there, you kind of have a wash when you have things that maybe purchase orders are larger and they may not truly happen. And then you have things that haven't been a purchase order that hasn't been entered yet, that you didn't expect on the budget, so they kind of wash. But that kind of explains why, when you're looking at in finance, if you look at the financials and you see, you know, we only have 23% remaining of the budget to spend. That is because there are also the expenses taken into account that take us all the way out to June 30th. So that kind of gives you an idea of how we are financially with this fiscal year's budget in operational. So the budget shows that we should receive all revenues that have been budgeted for, at least, if not more. And then expenses, we do still have budget remaining that we could spend for anything that is going to come up in the future here. So, so at this point, I believe we are financially secure and doing fine. So. There was actually just received something that has from the PED where they've done adjustments with our actual numbers for our SEG, so our student numbers and all the activity that they measure, they kind of true it up, and they're actually taking out $32,000, which is not much at all. I wasn't sure with the new most this year, there were all these rules that had to be followed, and I was afraid if, you know, if an interpretation was wrong, or they even changed the way they said, you know, what they offered was going to change. I was a little bit worried that maybe there would be a large adjustment at this point, but it didn't came up, and I was relieved to only have $32,000 taken away. So I wasn't sure what could happen with how, since it was such a new program. Okay, then next slide. The next slide is as of the day I pulled this. So this is as of March 12th. This is every fund we have. Starts off with the fund number, the description name of the fund, how much we have budget authority that we're allowed to spend at this point. Versus the next column is what has been spent or obligated to be spent. And then the remaining balance from that, taking the budgeted amount less the spent or obligated, and then getting the percentage remaining. So you will see there's a slight difference from this one on operational versus the one we just looked at, because the one we looked at that I just had gone over was as of February, stopping it at February, where this was as of March 12th. Since there were so many funds, I just took it at a period of time. If you look at the next one, it looks a little disturbing because there's a big red number in the negative, and that is our transportation fund. And like I think I've mentioned before, that transportation always goes in the negative, and then operational will pick that up at the end. In June, I will move expenses out of transportation into operational. So I always reserve money in operational to cover this negative expense. I keep it that way because then I know how much I truly have to supplement to to transportation. Otherwise, if I just move this stuff, I wouldn't have an idea of how much I'm truly spending in transportation. And there is another one also, if you go further down, the 25175 also has a red $40,000. That is another fund that always goes into the negative that operational picks up. So that's just something I always know that I always have to keep in account that I'll have to pick up in the operational. But another one that I do keep it how it really is being spent, and just to get, so I know how much that fund actually cost us. So let's see. So this is just all of them. These are all of our funds. Everything that we have through the OBMS. Yeah, some of the funds carry over, and so having a big balance remaining is actually a good thing, and some of them do expire at June 30th, so it depends on the fund that it is. They're all different. Some of these look like not a lot of money has been spent. That's also because some of them, we just received the fund, and so they're new, so they haven't been truly spent, a lot spent at this point. So that is kind of like all I have to show you on how we are looking this fiscal year. I do have next to show you kind of what I know for next fiscal year's budget presentation. So I don't know if you want to stop and have the questions on this one
here.
or.
Mr. Vickers, any questions?
I don't have any questions on this one.
Okay.
Mrs. O'Hara? No. Mr. Bennett? Mr. Tally?
Yes, and you kind of answered this a little bit. Some of these, it's okay to carry over to the next year and some of them you can't. Is that?
Yeah, there's some funds in here that, majority of these funds will carry over into the next year.
Is
So
there?
whatever you don't, when I say carry over, that means whatever you don't spend this year, I'll be able to budget that into the next year. So that will do an estimation. I will be estimating at this time when I'm doing the budget, what will happen, what am I gonna be leaving at June 30th? And then putting that into the next year's budget.
And these ones that have a deficit, can they only be pulled from the operational fund later, or can you move some of these other funds around to pay for some of those deficits as well?
At this point, those two they can only come from operational. So, I mean, there could be, you never know if there's a grant that might come through someday and that's something that I find fun to do. If I can find another route to spend the money, I do. I'm always trying to find, thinking of different ways to spend the money if I can. Operational is like my last resort, but there are a lot of things that only operational can pay for.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Can you, I know you've said this before, why is transportation?
There is no way near that we are funded enough in transportation. No.
Is that
it's-
statewide? Is that a phenomenon
It
statewide?
is pretty much statewide,
Yeah,
however.
Madam President, members of the board, this is a statewide and problem that the Superintendent's Association has been trying to address with the legislature for at least the last 5 years that I'm aware of. It may go back even further. I do know some other districts face $1 million deficits. Pulling APS out of the equation because theirs is a much larger number. It seems to be anywhere from $500,000 to $1 million short because of lack of funding from the state in terms of transportation.
I haven't, either. I know that there were some districts that they receive their allocation and then they contract out instead of having employees. They let that contractor know, this is all I have. And so, this is what you're gonna have to charge me if you're gonna have to use that. I don't know if that's still the case. It's been a couple of years since I've heard that, but I know a lot of districts did that. Maybe they're smaller districts. And then the amount that we have to supplement keeps growing and growing and growing. It wasn't, I used to, oh my God, 700,000 and now I'm over $1 million. So, so it's, back then I know some districts could get contractors to do it. I think there are also it used to be, they didn't offer, benefits like health insurance and stuff to transportation employees. So, I can't imagine how you're gonna find bus drivers to work. Most of them, sometimes they come because of the benefits. So with us, agreeing to do that, it's end up being, and I imagine, it's probably gonna be bigger next year too, unless they do something about it.
Dr. Kettler, did the Superintendent's Association put this on, did you have a lobbyist help to try to work with this with the recent state legislature? This just is, I don't know, districts are supposed to fund this.
Or our lobbyist. He spends all of his time in Santa Fe talking about these issues. This is one of the issues on the superintendent's platform for this current legislative session that's now passed. And there was no action in terms of transportation relief.
Please help me understand the childcare block grant. You said that that's another one that typically goes in the red and you expect it. Why is that?
That is just because we do it depends on how many CYFD kids we have, and then so we have a teacher in there that provides services for some students and for some children, and so most, if a lot of the students are CYFD, we'll get more funding in there, but it just depends, and so.
Thank you very
It's
much.
not a lot for the services we're able to provide.
Thank you for those clarifying notes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now I know you have some delightful news coming up.
Yeah,
I
you've
was
already
trying
been
to delay that.
pre-warned. Okay. Okay, so this kind of goes over just letting you know about the budget, that, our fiscal years start July 1st and June 30th. It does talk about how prior to June 20th of each year, the school board shall, at a public hearing when notice be published, the local school board approve the operating budget for the school district for the ensuing fiscal year. It must demonstrate that we bring our budget to the public, so we will have public meetings and discuss about the budget. The budget has to be balanced. I can't go into the negative on it. And it will be approved by the PED prior to July 1st. So usually on June 30th. Oh, thank you. Okay. Okay, so this, I'm not gonna really go over it, just kind of mention that there is manual procedures, some rules that we have to follow. It does kind of discuss if you go in there, so the PED website has this supplement one that talks about budget planning, and so just some of the rules that we follow. So pretty boring stuff, but if you would like to look at it, there's the information for it, so how to find it. And then the next one is our budget timeline. I believe you've already seen this, but this, the budget timeline, first we actually have just finished all of our principal input sessions. And they started on February 26th. We thought it would be best to try and get them started before the budget crunch happens. Tonight I'm going to give you a little bit of an overview. I don't know a lot yet on this year's budget, so but we'll discuss what I do know. Tomorrow and tomorrow through Friday, I have spring budget. Hopefully I will find out some more information. March 26th will be a presentation of the budget for NEA. April 9th, budget presentation that will be available for the public and for the parents. And a final board workshop on April 23rd. May 21st, a board meeting for the budget approval. And then this now is confirmed, our budget is due on May 29th. And it needs to be there in the morning. Okay, so this one, I don't have our student numbers quite yet. Like normally we would have up to the 120th day. But I don't have anything official on that, so I actually just kind of left this slide from last year. This is last year's numbers, kind of give you an idea of 10 years worth. And, this is the big driver in the revenue that we do receive, our SEG numbers. And so you can kind of see where, 10 years ago where we started, and then you see the big COVID drop, and you can see the slight increase since then. So just kind of another visual on what happens to our revenue. This is the teacher cost index. We kind of keep an eye on this because it is a multiplier in the calculation for our revenue. And if you kind of look at these on the right, you have the last few years, it's actually kind of keeping a lot more constant. And this is a ratio a number that we get based off of your teachers' years of experience, also with their degrees, and you kind of get an idea of that, and it gives you a little an amount. It becomes a multiplier in the revenue. It's probably not being, it has been so constant, not as big of a deal as it used to be. If you look like, that big old down slide right there is going to make a huge difference. So it probably was very important in the past to kind of note this to explain why your revenue was going down. So, but with it kind of staying more constant, it's not as big of a factor in the calculation of our revenue anymore. Next one. This is the history of our unit value. And when you look at the numbers on this, it's kind of doesn't have a little, any footnotes. There are some years where I'd like to use an example when we used to have another fund that was textbook fund. And, one year they got rid of that fund and they just started putting all of the textbook money into the SEG, which then they would have to increase your unit value to cover those costs. So it's kind of hard to compare each year, but if you look at last year, we started off, so the unit value we were told was the 6,241.57. And normally the unit value goes up, typically, not always, but this year they did not change it at all. So whatever we started with was the unit value we ended with. And then next year's unit value, I have not found out what it is yet, so I just have a big question mark there. But you can see that it has grown and grown over the years. And I'm hoping that it will grow for, the initial unit value for next year. It should grow, being that there are increased expenses coming. And this just, the next slide just gives you an idea of, this is not just operational, this is all the funds. So the budget for all the funds that we have that we watch over. And of course, I haven't done next year's budget. So this is just up to this current fiscal year. And this is as of July 1st. So every July 1st, the funds that I can budget for, funds that we know about, that will be something that I will send off on May 29th. And once that's approved, then we are allowed to spend that starting July 1st. If we don't put that budget in and we have zero, we will have to wait until after the bar has been approved. We'll have to put a bar in, get it approved, and then we can start spending those funds. Okay, currently, what I know for the next year's budget. Employee positions are to receive at least a 3% raise. And medical insurance is going to go up 15.53% for both the employee and the employer. And for operational, I estimate that The medical insurance is going to cost operational an additional 875,000 based on this year's numbers. Dental insurance is going up 5% for both the employee and the employer. And that is estimating to cost operational 40,000. The risk insurances that we have are to increase 31.86%. And that only really affects, well, it affects a little bit more than just operational. A little bit of the workers' comp premiums for some of the funds, some of the federal funds that have employees, FTEs in there will also receive a little bit of that also. But for operational, I'm estimating that that is going to cost $975,000. And also, I already kind of preparing for an additional 6.25 in FTE that was coming out of the ESSER funds to be put now into the operational. Possibly two FTEs will actually hit student nutrition instead. So that might only be 4.25 instead of 6.25. And then another 3.4 FTE out of 3 mil. And that is all I have. Kind of give you an idea, kind of getting prepared for next year's budget. So it's not a lot of information at this point. Hopefully tomorrow I'll know more. Do you have any questions on that? Mr. Vickers, questions?
I've got a few questions. On your timeline, the April 9th presentation for parents and public, where will that be held?
Here.
In the boardroom here?
Mhm. Yeah.
Okay. And how will they be notified?
Well, it is in the budget calendar that we did put out, and so it will be, just like with this will be on, like when we put out for all the activities that'll go on, so.
So like an email, like
And
all
then-
the parents will get an email?
Sorry,
You
Mr.
can
Vickers.
put it on our website too.
Member, Vickers, it has been announced at the public meeting. We will also be sending reminders to principals to send that out to their communities through Remind.
Right. On your known current information, employee positions are to receive at least 3% raise. Is that average across the board or minimum
Minimum
for every person?
for every position. So if someone was to, you know, like if I decided I want to be a crosswalking person, they're not going to pay me 3% more than I made before. So it would be every position will get a 3%. So,
Minimum.
right. So if I was doing the same position, if I'm doing the same job, I will receive 3%
Okay.
at least.
The dental insurance increase, you have estimated 40,000. Is that the increase or the total?
That's the increase
Same,
for the dental.
same with risk insurances. That-
Yes, yeah,
in-
all of these are what, if I was to have that increase on today's number, that's what it would be. So it does not account for the fact that, like, say I'm gonna be adding those 6 FTEs. I will have to then add, you know, insurance for those also. So my insurance will go up more than that because of the fact that I'm adding things to it. But if I was to take today's numbers and put these increases in, that's what I would get.
Okay.
The increased amount only, not the true, you know, amount that I'll be paying.
Okay, and then on the last line, the FTEs, can you give a dollar estimate of what that line represents approximately?
let me see, I would have to, I got it, but I don't have it with me here. I might have some over there, but, let's see, they are not, it's not really, the ones, there's like two positions, that are already, that we're gonna continue the same exact position. They're more in the maintenance, kind of custodial area. And then, the other are the student nutrition and transportation. So they're not huge dollar amounts. It's not like,
I guess finally, what's your estimate? Are we going to be losing funding that we have to find, that we have to cut things? Do you think?
well, if the unit value doesn't change from this year, I guess I hope that the unit value, I hope that person was wrong. And, or that person was talking about maybe, from the initial unit value this year to the ending unit value, perhaps, no. Okay, I'm not gonna sleep tonight. So, yeah, if we are fortunate that we have cash reserves and, you know, it's a comfort that we have it. I'm fine with it not growing at this point. I think we finally have reached a level that we have a nice set amount of reserves. So, you know, perhaps we would have to, you know, sharpen our pencils more and see what we can do. But we always do have that cushion that we have. So, you know, there have been years that the budget wasn't enough, that we had to use the money that we had in cash, you know, for that. So if that was to happen, you know, it wouldn't be like we'd have to do that massive, like we, you know, years and years ago when we had a massive, you know, cut in FTEs to make it. And there was recently years where, you know, there were a couple districts that were not able to make it because they didn't have the cash reserve, that we were able to not have to cut any. And then luckily after that, budgets were, you know, not as tight and the state was more generous to us. So we made it through that one year that was really tight because we had the cash reserves. And that is the beauty of actually having cash reserves, is you never know. You know, I've been here long enough to see when, you know, when it's been a really bad struggle, and other years where it's comfortable and we can, you know, we can afford to buy something extra that, you know, we need, that we put off for a while. So I don't foresee that because, but if the unit value stays the same, that means giving 3% raises to all employees, and that type of, you know, several millions of dollars more going into just insurances, and picking up people that were coded to ESSERs. I assumed that the unit value was going to go up quite a bit because the state realizes that so many districts are losing those ESSER funds. So that's pretty scary. And I probably won't sleep tonight, seriously, worried about if that was to happen. And maybe I'll feel better if I find out anything tomorrow.
Or as soon as we have that initial unit value, I will be sure to share that with you, along with any comments from Ms. Tracy about the unit value. So you're aware, ahead of any more scheduled board meetings or budget meetings.
Thank you very much.
Madam President, is that also, you've got that increase for the classified staff also to figure out, right?
The 3% raise, is that what you're talking?
No, besides the 3%, is it classified going up to 30,000?
That did not pass.
It did.
Mr. Bennett, do you have any more questions? Mr. Talley?
So I do just have one, being new to some of this. I think I know what unit value is, but can you explain unit value?
Yeah, so actually, when we do get, later in the presentations, when I actually do receive something from the state showing us how our revenue is calculated. So, there is a large little formula that tells every district how much revenue they're gonna get. And so it's based off of, it starts off with, just students and, you know, a kindergarten student might be weighted higher than a fifth grade student, because you might have to have aides and stuff like that. So there are all kinds of calculations that go into weighting different things different. And how many special ed ancillary services do you provide? And do you have bilingual, and are you participating in the, you know, fine arts? And so there are all kinds of each calculation, and starting off with first, just like the student numbers. All of those are weighted, and then you get program units. And so all of these program units for the different types of things that they do put in the calculation, how many National Board Certified teachers do you have? That TCI number that I had in there is a multiplier. All of these things add up, and then you get to where you have program units. How many units do you have? You take those units and you multiply it by this unit value that's given to all districts. It's one number that's multiplied by all of your program units. And that's how you come up with your revenue, your regular SCG revenue. Ignoring all the NMOS stuff is a separate part that also gets added to it. So that number is huge. Like, you know, it makes a big difference because all these program units are multiplied by that number to get to what your final amount of revenue is going to be. So it can make a, you know, just giving them, making that number, you know, $100 more is going to make a big difference in your.
Thank you.
Mrs. Otero, any questions?
I do not have any questions. I have a couple, but they were clarified by answering the other questions. So thank you for your report.
The teacher cost index multiplier, just for people in the audience, do you want to explain how that's determined?
Yes, so in October, they will ask us to pull one of your salaries and send the information, and we're gonna pull a report from our system, and it's gonna tell how many average years our teachers have in experience. And then it's also gonna look at the teachers are, you know, do they have their MA? Do they, how many years, and all the degree that they have, so how far. So of course, is it's gonna cost us more. If our teacher has a PhD and they've been there for 20 years, that teacher's gonna be making a lot more than some teacher that just came in and is a first-year teacher. So all of those numbers are kind of averaged, and then that calculates out into that number. And then that number is multiplied within once you get some of your program units, that's another thing that's multiplied. So anything you multiply by changing a little bit is gonna make a difference. And unfortunately, you can see that our number went down a little bit from last year. It's actually the same amount that it was the year prior, but it did go down a little. So it'll affect our revenue some.
Thank you very much. No other questions? Dr. Keller, this was very nice information to have, and I appreciate it. I think it would be nice to maybe see this about every quarter or something so we can stay on top of it. But thank you for the work, and I appreciate all of the detail. Very nice.
Thank you.
Madam President, members of the board, I want to give you a brief update tonight on the progress towards the strategic plan. Last time we met, and I give you, I think, the final 100 days report. While he finds the PowerPoint, I'll just keep talking. As mentioned in the final 100 days report that. Not that one, John. that we were working with an outside group, Loom Strategy, to help us as we moved into our strategic plan. This involves lots of steps. My meeting with people, principals, visiting schools, surveys that Loom actually crafted and sent out, and then collected and crunched the numbers. And so from there, we have been working on the strategic priorities and theory of action. And so on slide 2, what you'll see is that as we continue to work towards our strategic plan, we're now in phase 3, which is the delivery chain phase. During this phase, we're going to be identifying who needs to be involved in the delivery of our priorities and how we deliver on those priorities. This work will take place, the majority of this work will take place next week, as Loom is coming to spend 2.5 days with myself and other staff as we work on this. Next slide, please. These, based on the steering committee, these are the priorities that have come out. There is 4 basic priorities. The first is to build collaborative student-centered culture. We use root cause analysis to help us identify our highest leverage priorities for the strategic plan. The building of collaborative student-centered culture aligns to board priorities such as consistent excellence in every school, career preparations, security and safety, health and wellness, communication, fiscal responsibility, and transparency. Second priority is to build trust with families to serve as partners in their students' academic learning. And this is all about board priorities, communication, health and wellness, security and safety. Third priority is to build systems, strategies, and capacity to support strong instruction. We have found that our curriculum actually falls into the high quality instructional material category. So we want to really focus on the systems and capacity to support teachers as they deliver instruction to our kids and to make sure that that's strong instruction. Again, this aligns to the board priorities of consistent excellence in every school, as well as career preparation. And then finally, we want to develop strong people systems, which is all about recruiting and retaining staff. Next week, as I mentioned, we'll be working on the theory of action for each of the priorities that have been identified. For each priority, Loom is going to help us create an inclusive and collaborative space with departments to clarify and communicate specific challenges that exist, including where and why they think they exist, analyze and document our strengths, weaknesses, and threats to each one of these priorities, including an assessment of the current approach, any constraints or resources available. And when I talk about resources, I'm talking about our people resources, in addition to our finance resources, professional learning, all of those sorts of things. We want to strengthen and understand research-based best practices and proven strategies so that we can truly advance these priorities and identify necessary changes or revisions to any current approaches to ensure that our efforts to reach these priorities or deliver on these priorities align with best practices. And then leverage a comprehensive understanding of the challenges to develop a theory of action that defines the desired end state of the district's focus on these priorities. If executed effectively, we will enable the district to reach our desired end state, which is better student achievement outcomes, as we talked about earlier during the work session. On the last slide, or next to the last slide, as we focus on identifying the actions in the delivery chain, work streams, the decisions, our capacity to deliver, and the collaboration that's needed across the district with different departments, different people, we want to make sure that we're focusing to effectively execute the identified strategies for each priority. So we have the priorities identified. We're going to look at those again on Monday afternoon and make sure that those are solid final priorities. And then we're going to begin building out the strategies for reaching those priorities. We want this to be obviously more than a piece of paper, something that you hang on the wall, something that we are working towards and delivering on. So during this phase, we have to identify those critical behaviors and actions that all stakeholders must take ownership in and execute on. Compare what needs to be done for each strategy with what is currently being done. Maybe we're already doing something that just needs tweaked a little bit or bolstered, or maybe it's something we're doing secondarily that should be done primarily, right? Brought to the top. Determine the capacity and resources needed to effectively implement these strategies. Identify any gaps between existing capacity and resources needed, including cross-team collaborations and alignments. Create a strategy scope for the purposes of internal communication and alignment that names alignment to district priorities, which I kind of shared in terms of the priorities. Key stakeholders, communication needs and strategies, as well as key resources needed to successfully execute on the strategy to meet those priorities. And then develop a detailed work plan. That considers the actions, milestones, and tasks, communication activities, and key actors necessary for effective execution. So within this month, by the end of this month, I should have a solid action plan or work plan that details our actions. It will also include links to our research-based best practices, the communication activities, and the key people involved in that execution. And then finally, on the last slide, as we look ahead, and we get into April, May, and June, once each priority has a clear theory of action, which again includes research-based strategies, and we know how we're going to deliver on each strategy, we will have the information needed to establish summative goals for each priority, informative metrics and milestones, so that we can ensure that we're monitoring our performance and progress against our plan. This will be ambitious, but it's also going to be actionable, and we'll have targets along the way for our district that are meaningful and measurable.
Ready for questions, Dr.
Okay.
Cutler?
Yes.
Mr. Vickers, any questions?
Yeah, I've got one on the goal, develop strong people systems, recruit and retain staff. How? What's the strategy there?
So those are the strategies that we'll be working out beginning next week.
Yeah, that's always been an issue, and we're in competition with other districts.
Yeah.
High quality staff.
That is correct. And that's one of the things that we'll be working on next week is identifying the strategies so that we can meet that priority. There will inevitably be lots of different ideas thrown out, but Loom is going to help us identify from those ideas thrown out the highest leverage strategies so that we're not spinning our wheels in mud on low level things. We want to get to the high level strategies that will give us the best yield.
Thank you.
Mrs. Return.
No, I'll let you go ahead. Thank you, Dr. Cutler.
Mr. Bennett.
No question.
I have one or two. So one of the things that I was very happy to see was research-based best practices, but proven strategies. What are you gonna be looking for? I'm on the third page where we talk about, it's the third bullet, strengthen understanding of research-based best practices and proven strategies. How are we going to identify that it is in fact a proven strategy?
So the proven strategies will be based on what other districts have done and has been published as effective. Now, I would mention here that just because it was effective in another district, doesn't mean it may be proven effective here. And so I think we have to cross reference other characteristics in those districts where it was effective with, I guess, the characteristics of our district, that we can make sure, again, that we're getting the highest yield in our strategies.
I think one of the things I might suggest there is let's identify the metric for effective. Okay, because that's effective can be identified many ways, but if we stay consistent with how we are measuring effective, then we have a good comparison. For the evaluation plan, are you going to look at a logic model type of thing when we're looking at the evaluation for the very end? Formative metrics and milestones?
Madam
Is that
President,
included?
I can say I don't know what that will be at this point in time.
Would you be willing to ask the question?
I will have an answer for you soon, though, yes.
Thank you very much. I think one of the things I'm concerned with, this is truly ambitious and it's been needed in our district for a very long time. I'm worried about over initiative syndrome, where we pile on more to pile on
Yep.
more. And I appreciate that we're looking at high leverage. But I hope that that's something that would stay at the forefront when you are working on strategies and high leverage systems. We don't need classroom teachers with more.
Yeah,
Okay.
Madam President, members of the board, I will say that is one of the things that I heard in my first 100 days was initiative fatigue
Correct.
from the last 3 years, probably beginning with COVID and ESSER's money. Because when you have money and you spend it on new shiny things. And so that's what we want to avoid. So
I think
I
we're-
appreciate that comment.
Sure. I think one of the things that I am seeing that's a lack here that I would like maybe some more information on is I don't necessarily see coherence from one priority to another, what we're going to be doing. So for instance, Mr. Vickers rightly asked, and I know that this is coming, but the who, what, why, when, where, and
Yeah.
how, so that we have consistent information and we have coherence across our systems. Those are my comments. Thank you very much.
Thank
It's a
you.
very nice presentation. Okay. We are now on to item B. No, item E, board commendations. Whew. We made it this far. Everybody awake? This is a pulse check. Yes, thank you for that. Woo, we needed that. Members of the board, does it? Yes. I'm sorry, what? Oh, I'm sorry, I did not. Thank you very much for that. All of item D was for informational purposes only. No action is needed or warranted at this time. Thank you very much, Mrs. Wolf. We are now on to item E, board commendations. Are there any board members who have anything that they would like to raise? Mr. Vickers, Mrs. Otero? No. Mr. Bennett? I have a few. First of all, I was very happy to see that Los Angeles schools are now a part of the Village Chamber of Commerce. Thank you very much. It's nice to be a systemic part of this community's inner workings. Also, I'd like to raise awareness for Mr. Larry Padilla, who is a cross-country coach for Los Angeles High School. I mentioned him in January. He has been nominated for the cross-country coach of the year at the national level. He'll be going in June to represent our district. He is one of the only coaches in this state that was recognized for the national level. So I think that's pretty outstanding. We got to hear from one coach tonight, or hear about one coach's efforts tonight. So these people give a lot of extra to us. So thank you very much for those two things. Also, just as a point of reference, we do have 2 scholarships and we had exceptional high school representatives here. Also, the NMSBA scholarship is offered, and I would love to see applicants from Los Lunas. If maybe we could put that out to our principals, $1,250.
Madam President, it is already in the principal's hands.
Thank you very much. We want to get kids money if they want to go to school. That's the end of commendations from me. That moves us over to item F, public comment. Before we move to public comment, I would like to remind our audience of the board's procedures for handling public comment, which are found in Board Policy B 2150 BEDH. Public comment is limited to 5 minutes per individual speaker. However, the board president may further restrict or waive these time limits based on the number of speakers. The board welcomes input. The board does not prohibit public criticism or comment upon personnel matters, but does discourage personal attacks on board members, staff, personnel, or other persons. Presenters are cautioned that statements or representations concerning others that convey an unjustly unfavorable impression may be subject to the presenter being the target of civil action. Any person making public comments shall be solely responsible for the content of his or her comments. The board neither adopts nor assumes responsibility for any comments made by individuals during the public comment section of the board meeting. Dr. Kettler or Mrs. Wolf, how many speakers have signed up to provide comment at today's meeting?
Madam President, we have one request for public comment.
Thank you very much.
Mrs. Allison Martin, are you present? Hi, how are you? I'm well, thank you. I understand your topic will be the Outdoor Educator Leadership Program Opportunity for Teachers in Los Lunas. Is that correct? Would you go to the podium, please, ma'am? So when you start speaking, I will start your clock for 5 minutes.
Madam President, Dr. Kettler, members of the Los Lunas Board, community members, my name is Allison Martin. I am the executive director for a brand new nonprofit called Total New Mexico, which stands for Teaching Outdoors to All Learners. I've been in the outdoor and environmental field for almost 20 years, and I did work at Whitfield for 4 years. So I have seen a lot of your students over the years. I live in Bosque Farms, and I decided back in September of 2023 to start a nonprofit in outdoor and environmental learning initiatives to basically train the trainer to offer these opportunities to get kids outdoors, to make it more accessible, equitable. I formed an 8-member advisory board, a 3-member governing board, and now we are 5 months in and starting our first project. And I'm so excited we get to do it here in my hometown of Valencia County. And so I brought information about this project, and it is funded by Meta funds as well as the Outdoor Equity Fund. So we have a total of $55,000 for this program. It is going to be a 6-month leadership program that's going to be offered from July through December of 2022. We're going to have 20 teachers part of this program from Los Lunas and the Belen schools. So hopefully we get a nice 50-50. And the applications are going to open up in April, and they'll be open for 4 weeks and more if needed. But we'd like to recruit our teachers this year to start it in July. And we'll have an event to promote our teachers that are part of this program. There's many benefits. We all know the benefits to outdoor learning, social emotional health. I could go on forever and ever. But the idea is to grow and support outdoor classrooms through this program. So it'll be a 6-month program that we will work with teachers and their students through monthly meetings, virtual and in person. We'll have a big thing at the end. And one of the big things that we hope to come out of this will be statewide guidelines and frameworks. And that would be awesome to be like, look what's going on in Valencia County. They came up with adaptable frameworks for outdoor spaces for schools across New Mexico. So we can hopefully create communities of practice that all starts here in Valencia County. So I have a very high ambition and high goals for this. And our team will be the main facilitator for this. We also have a lot of partners that we're going to be working with and these teachers throughout this program. So hopefully we get a lot of teachers. And so if you know some, I'm going to leave this. Applications will be available on our website, totalnm.org. So you can find it, you can find all the information about the things we've already started and done. You can see our team. I do have cards and my emails on here. It's also online. And so, if you have extra questions, I will love to have one-on-one and we can chat more about this program and opportunities, but I'm just really excited to finally be able to offer this almost dream that I've been dreaming for like 20 years. And it's exciting to be able to offer that to teachers down here. So
Thank you very much. Congratulations on the award. Thank you for spending your time with us and letting us know about it. We wish you success.
thank you. And I can just leave this maybe up front.
What is- I'm sorry?
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind leaving that with Miss Wolf.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
great.
we'll make sure to distribute those.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
We are now at item G, approval of consent items. I would stand for a motion regarding the consent items.
Madam President, move that we approve all of the action items on the agenda with the following exceptions. Item number 3, approval of purchases. Sub item number 2, Apple Inc. computers, technology to support digital literacy. Sub unit 3, Apple Computer Inc. Learning and Innovations MacBook Air for 8th grade students. Sub bullet 4, school specialty learning innovations, translation earbuds for K-6 students. And subsection 6, school health learning innovations, C-Pen readers for K-6 elementary students. It's a mouthful.
Yes, yes, it is. I have a motion by Mr. Tally. I would stand. You would second? Thank you. Mr. Tally has moved for the approval of consent items with the exception of item 3, sub-bullet 2, Apple Incorporated Computers Technology to support digital literacy. Sub-bullet 3, Apple Computers Incorporated Learning Innovations MacBook Air for 8th grade students. Sub-bullet 4, School Specialty Learning Innovations, Translation Earbuds for K-6 students. And sub-bullet 6, School Health Learning Innovations C-Pen readers for K-6 elementary students. Do I have, or for the benefit of the audience, all agenda items have been reviewed for the board members individually. Consent items are the action items on the agenda presented by the superintendent and staff for approval. If no discussion has been asked regarding these items by any of the board members, the action items may be submitted for approval with one motion or vote. The action items that are not consented will be discussed prior to each action being taken. Do we have any discussion? Mr. Fick?
Just might mention that, I don't think it was mentioned that these are all under the main heading of J, Finance Committee items.
Thank you very much for that correction. Any other discussion? I would like to call for a vote, please. Mr. Vickers,
Yes.
Mrs. Otero,
Yes.
Mr. Tally,
Yes.
Mr. Bennett,
Yes.
and I vote yes, motion passes. Now moving to the items that were not consented. And that would be item J, Finance Committee items. Number 3, approval of purchases. First item up is sub item 2, Apple Incorporated Computers Technology to support digital literacy. I would stand for a motion for approval.
Madam
Is that
Chair,
correct? I'm sorry, am I out of?
2, on my sheet, 2 is not,
That is correct, but Mr.
All right,
Tally just
discussion.
referenced it
oh, okay.
in the motion. That is correct. He just mentioned it in the motion.
For simplicity, I think items number 2 and 3 are probably similar discussion. They're both.
They're listed separately on the agenda, so we have to have discussion for each item. Yes, on the consent item, this is for clarity. Sorry? Yes, we'll have a 2-minute break here.
Thumbs up, Mr. Shaw.
Thank you.
Dr. Osowski,
Sir,
for clarification, when we discussed the consent sheet beforehand, there were only 3 items
that is
that
correct.
were marked. I did change that as we were discussing. I would like to discuss all 4 items that I had mentioned.
Yes, sir.
They are all technology related. I realize we need to vote on them individually now, but if we could discuss these items together and vote on them individually at the end, that might expedite.
Unfortunately, that's not how Robert's Rules of Order go. However, I think it will be fine. And no, I appreciate you letting members of the audience know why we had a little bit of a hiccup there. Okay, so I will reiterate my request for a motion for item J, Finance Committee meetings, number 3, approval of purchases, sub-bullet 2, Apple Incorporated Computers Technology to support digital literacy under code 24330 ESSER 3 funds. Do I have a motion to approve?
Discussion or
Well,
what?
we have to move and then we have discussion.
To approve what? I'm sorry.
I will make a motion to approve item J, number 3, sub-bullet 2. Do I have a second?
Sure.
No sec-
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Vickers. Is there any discussion?
Yes.
Mr. Talley?
So I do have questions about the Apple Inc. Computer technology to digital support literacy. Let me pull up the information that we were sent on that. Essentially, the Apple products is what the school has chosen to use for their instruction. And it comes at a significant cost to the district. We were just told that we may have a significant budget shortfall coming. There may be other options and opportunities where we could save money by switching to different technology. I realize it may be too late at this point to do it for the coming school year, but I think we should investigate alternatives to Apple products as they are significantly more expensive than other technology that's out there that can perform the same or similar functions. So I just want a little bit of information. Has anything else been looked at in this, coming up to this point to approve these?
Madam President, members of the board, I'd like to call Chief Student Services Officer Susan Chavez to the podium. She oversees our technology.
Madam President, Mr. Talley, members of the board, Dr. Kettler, thank you for the opportunity to talk about this. I did invite our digital learning coaches as part of educational technology team, and I will introduce them. This is Heather Ridley, Michael Romero, Tamara Aragon, Rose Trujillo, and Antonio Barrio. So they are part of our educational technology team. Should you guys want to? Okay. So our partnership with Apple began in 2014 as part of the ConnectEd grant. 3 of our school sites were awarded the ConnectEd grant, which equated to about $1 million for each school. And that started with Los Lunas Elementary, Loma Elementary, and Ann Parish Elementary. So at that time, we were at a point where we didn't know which direction we were going to go with devices. As a result of receiving this grant, and we were 3 schools out of 119 schools in the entire country that received this grant. And when you look at the number of schools in New Mexico that received this grant, we were awarded more than most other districts. So part of the grant was also all the professional development that came with the devices, because you can't just give somebody a device and expect them to say, oh, I know how to use this. Let me go and use it. So that was a 4-year grant. That was the life cycle of the grant. When we were looking at different products, we did an extensive search because we do know that any device that you purchase, it's going to be a cost to Los Lunas schools, whether you go the Chromebook route or you go Apple route. And at the time, we knew that our students in elementary schools, 3 of the elementary schools, would be going to middle school. And we had to make a decision because we didn't want our students who were immersed in this wonderful world with a one-to-one device to go to middle school and not have the technology that they had become accustomed to when they were in elementary school. So the next move was to move to the middle schools. And actually, Ms. Montaño was an administrator at Los Lunas Middle School at the time. And we did go the iPad route. We looked at the cost. We looked at the life cycle of an Apple product compared to other products. And when you look at the life cycle and the cost, Apple was cost affordable for Los Lunas schools. And it was something that we could afford because the operating system, the life of the iPad lasts longer. And we also had a higher return rate when we had buyback for those devices. So we do purchase, we do go, we are in contract with vendors who buy back our products. So we do still, even if a product is, and I'm looking to our technology team here. We have 9-year-old MacBooks that they still buy back. So we are receiving funding for that as well. So when we, of course, made a decision to go to the middle schools, then we said, well, what's going to happen with our high school students? So at that time, it was the fall of 2016, I believe, maybe 17. We decided that we needed to prepare our high school students with devices, and we needed to start with looking at what they would need if they were to go to college. And actually Mike Good, who's probably watching, he did an extensive search on what students were using at the college level. Were they using tablets or were they using laptops? And surprisingly, at that time, students were starting to use their phones to type papers, which for me, that seems incomprehensible. There is no way I could use my phone to type a paper, but students were swiping, they were using the keyboard swipes, they are very swift with their thumbs, and they were actually writing papers. So we thought, well, I think that that's good for some students, but that wasn't good for all the students. So at the time, Apple was offering us a one-time deal with the MacBooks. And I believe at the time it was, John, I'm drawing $600 a MacBook for a $1,200 MacBook. And so that was really something that we couldn't turn down for our students. Our students were very excited to receive Apple. They enjoy using Apple, and I'm gonna have our digital learning coaches talk about that. But so that was where we got to the high school levels. And then we said, well, we need to work on our other schools, our elementary schools that do not have any devices. They did have, well, I will redact that. They did have devices, but they were in carts. So there wasn't a one-to-one environment. So we were literally pushing carts between classrooms. So then we started working at the elementary schools. So they started to receive those carts. So at that time, we still had our 3 original Apple schools who were still using their original devices. And those devices lasted through COVID. So if you look at 2014 and through COVID, which our students returned in April of 2021, they were still using their same devices and they were still functioning as they were when we first deployed those devices. And so that's a long-term life cycle for a device, especially because it lasted through COVID, the devices went home. So at that point, we did have a digital learning plan, and this would be the school year that we would have had all of our students have devices, one-to-one. But because of COVID, that was increased dramatically. And so all of our students have had one-to-one devices since March of 2020. So when you look at why we continued down the path of Apple, we had already made the initial investment through the grant, which was an initial $3 million. The devices are marketable for buyback. And as John Schaaf just reported, we have 9-year-old MacBooks that are being bought back, and we are receiving money for that. So when you look at the different costs and how you have to refresh and renew, that is a cost that you're gonna have to encumber as a school district, no matter which route you go. But that's something that our students need. We want our students to be well-versed in multiple, not operating systems, but software systems. So they can, on a Mac device, they can use both Microsoft, we have Google Suite, and we have all the Apple software apps. So when our students leave, they are versed in all of those. If we went another route, students wouldn't learn the Apple native apps. And I will speak personally, when I was an intern at Sandia National Laboratories, when I was in college, I had minimal exposure to Apple, and that's what I was given. And that was a very hard transition for me personally. And I had an Apple IIe when I was a kid, but when I had to go and complete assignments that my manager gave me as a student intern, I was completely overwhelmed because I had never used an Apple before. And it was completely opposite. And so that was a very huge learning moment for me as a student who had access to technology. I wasn't versed in multiple operating systems. And I think that we need to be able to teach our kids that. So I hope that answers part of that question, but I would like to turn this over to our digital learning coaches just to offer their experiences that they've had with Apple and using those devices.
Can I ask a couple questions? before
Sure,
that?
absolutely.
The Connect IT or Connect It grant, did that apply only to Apple, or could you have chosen any other technology?
That was what the grant was asking, and that's what the grant was for.
They required Apple.
That's who provided the grant.
Oh, okay, that was.
Yes.
Okay. And on the buyback of these devices, how much on average do you get per computer on buyback?
It depends on the device and it depends on the year. So iPads are, of course, less because iPads cost less, excuse me. So I would say,
We'll keep it to the MacBook, just because that's,
I would say about $150 an average.
okay. Does that cost outweigh, because Chromebooks and there's other PCs that are significantly cheaper than that, even with the buyback, and especially when you buy them in bulk, there still could be significant cost savings there. I'm just asking, I'm not.
Oh, absolutely, no, absolutely.
I'm just, I want the information. I think it's important that people understand why we went with Apple. And that there are other alternatives that actually may be in the long term, cost savings, especially now with technology that's come so far. Chromebooks now have a lifetime that is similar to MacBooks. They aren't quite as powerful, but when you're using it for word processing and putting PowerPoints together, you don't need much more than that. You also mentioned multiple OS. It's something that you wish you would learn. Right now, we're limiting to Apple OS, whether it's a iPad or a MacBook. Do you think it'd be beneficial to learn other OSs? Just like you were, and is there a method that we could get more OSs and, more exposure for the students?
Yes, and we do have that exposure. So actually our interactive flat panels, they're all Microsoft, they're all Android.
Oh, and
They're all Android. So our students are learning that as well. And so I absolutely agree. I think it's a great question to ask because our community needs to know why we went with Apple. And I know that was long-winded, but I needed to explain the history of that because it wasn't a decision that was made lightly. It wasn't a decision that happened overnight. There were many different thoughts of which route we were going to go. And Apple by far always came on top. And when we look at the lifespan and the life cycle of it, we still are looking at other school districts because there's many other school districts that they're switching to going to Chromebooks from Apple, or they're going the other way. They're going from Chromebooks to Apple. When we look at our life cycles, we're not replacing devices as quickly as those other school districts are that use Chromebooks.
one more. So in the past, when technology wasn't as prevalent, we had textbooks.
Yes.
And I never had to pay for a textbook when I attended class. Now I'm required to pay for a MacBook rental or whatever you want to call it in order to access class. I can't show up to class without some sort of technology.
Correct. So our students are issued devices whether or not they paid the fees. So they do have access to the devices.
So as a parent, I was told I didn't have an option
To pay the fees.
to pay the fees.
So I know there's other ways that we've worked with our parents because I know that fees are a cost for our families. And so we do not deny any of our students the use of devices if they do not pay the fees.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Kettler. A couple of things I wanted to just highlight, and Mr. Telly, you kind of commented on the power of these devices. And I know you mentioned word processing and PowerPoints, but this month, our digital learning coach, Rose, she organized the third annual film festival. And it was a great showcase event where our students were able to create videos and use apps like Procreate, and the power of Chromebooks doesn't compare with the power of Apple. And I just know last year that your son was in the app design contest at KGE. And one of the reasons that we use the MacBooks is it loads Xcode. And that's the industry standard on app design. And you can already see that in our two school presentations, they were talking about Q and Dash and the coding, and our kids are starting coding at such a young age that we need to provide them with the powerful devices, which a Chromebook isn't able to do, so that they can continue that coding education well into high school and even out middle schools. So that's just one little point I wanted to speak to.
So one point I want to make is just, Apple isn't just a logo. Since I started using the devices and the tools, I felt like it's actually given me a voice as an educator. And if we could do that same with that same tool with students, giving them a voice with the built-in tools, the accessibility features, you know, the creativity that these tools have, then, I mean, that's super powerful for our students as well.
And I just want to interrupt real quick. Will you please state your name before you start speaking, please, for the captioner for our folks at home? Thank you.
You got it. This is Michael Romero, my colleague Pamela Aragon. I'm Heather Ridley. I support many of our secondary school sites alongside Mr. Romero. So board president, members of the board, Dr. Kettler. So the big question is right now, why Apple? And particularly the one question about why MacBook Air for our 8th grade students. Within my 16 years here within Los Lunas schools, I've had the privilege to teach at Valencia Middle School, Los Lunas Middle School, and Los Lunas High School. And now being able to support all 5 of our different schools. One of the significant things that's happening between our 8th grade and our 9th grade students is that they love their iPad. They use their iPad every single day. They have for the last 9 years. And one of the reasons why we're asking specifically for the MacBook for those 8th grade students is so that we can equip them with the skills that they need as they transition into high school. Going from middle school to high school is already such a significant jump that that's something that we'd like to offer them in terms of the carts, so that teachers can start getting them to use that as a strong system. So they're not walking into high school with a brand new device and not knowing how to use it. Further, there's many vertical alignment opportunities for our CTE programs. And so that's enabled with the increased power, as Michael had mentioned, to support at the industry level apps like Final Cut Pro and the access to the Xcode, as they had mentioned before. We want to be able to allow our students to develop coding that aligns with courses like advanced placement, computer science, to get them to be and meet at that industry standard. Further, something about Apple and supporting my own personal journey is that in 2014, when I was working at Los Lunas High School, I was able to go through an Apple teacher program. And that's something that's not available right now with Google for Education. And Google is actually cutting many of their services for educators at this point in time. And being able to have the resource of Lauren, who works with us from Apple Education, and be able to go through the free professional development opportunities of Apple Teacher is a definite plus for our teachers as well. Further, myself and the colleagues behind me have also completed the Apple Learning Coach program that was also free to our district. And it equipped us with the skills and the tools that we needed to be able to walk alongside educators to improve their use of technology in the classroom using those best practices alongside students, the students and the teachers alike. Further, it allows students to be more collaborative and creative, as we've heard with the App Design Challenge, the film festival that we've done with students, and other incredible opportunities that we've done as well. It's helped me become more creative and collaborative with my colleagues and different teachers that I've worked with all across the district. And I want to speak to iPad use specifically with my own children who are students at Catherine Gallegos Elementary. Something that I see with them as early learners is that they're able to really work within their iPad and increase their knowledge. They oftentimes come home and they want to do things on their iPad or work within Khan Academy. And when I compare their 21st century skills to their cousins who live in California and Texas, their skills are far outweighing what their similarly aged peers, their cousins, have. And then further in my work within Los Lunas schools, I found that the use of the MacBook and the iPad has supported my ELL students that I've worked with over the years, develop their language and different accessibility tools that are built into the Apple products that are not bolted on as Chrome extensions and the like. And then lastly, I'll finish up, is that Apple really truly is a pioneer in the area of accessibility and personalized learning, and we really want the best of the best for our students here within Los Lunas schools. Thank you.
Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Kettler, my name is Rose Trujillo, Rosalda Trujillo. My focus this year has been accessibility, and great segue that Heather just led into. I've been using the iPad in our community enhanced learning programs with our non-speaking students who are autistic. Jordan Zimmerman is an Apple Distinguished Educator, same as myself and Tamara Aragon. And live speech has been my go-to tool for students with speech disabilities or non-speaking students. That gives them a voice, that gives them choice over what they want to learn and ownership of, or just to hear them out. When Jordan came and she visited one of our schools, she worked with a non-speaking student, which I knew the student had more in her because I could see that she knew sight words and she would tap at her sight words. Jordan came and had this conversation using her iPad and just making little Post-it notes on Freeform, one of the apps that's on a native app that's on the iPad, and had a full conversation about this little girl who was able to tell us that she was uncomfortable, that her head, she was not in her wheelchair, she was in a different wheelchair for some reason, and her head was slumped over. And Jordan, kept asking, is it your head or something else? And she would tell that it was her head. Would you like us to reposition you? Yes or no? And she was like, yes. When I told her, I said, okay, I'll go ahead and lift you up to reposition you. And she just had this look of horror in her face, like, no, don't lift me up. And I was like, okay, read the room, right? We saw that. And I was like, okay, we're not gonna touch you. But would you like a blanket on the back of your head? And she was able to tell us yes. We went and got her a blanket. Her head was better. We asked her if she felt more comfortable, and yes. And I was like sobbing that day, along with other people who were observing that, because that to me was powerful when we are giving a voice to our students who are non-speakers. So that's my take on Apple products. It has just been an amazing journey for me as a former special ed teacher. When we became a connected school at Los Lunas Elementary, I saw the doors that it opened up for my students and the confidence that they had to be able to go into their gen ed classroom and perform with their peers. So thank you.
Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Kettler, my name is Antonio Barrio. I'm also one of the digital learning coaches, and I also started at Tomei Elementary with one of the connected schools. During my time as a teacher, I started with using Windows and other tablets such as, I think it was called the Surface at the time, and I saw a shift when Apple came in to be able to use it to extend my skills as a teacher, to expand upon my creativity. And I'm seeing that more with the students that I'm working with. Recently, I had the opportunity to work with Lauren from Apple at our Tomei Elementary to conduct a film camp for the film festival. And the students were really engaged with using apps that were native to Apple, such as iMovie. And so when I interviewed them and I was talking to them and asking them, why do you like Apple? They just like the ability to create. And that's something that I haven't seen on some of the other tablets that are available on that market, that ease of use. So I really see the need for, using those products to promote creativity, and the ability to have that free professional learning has really helped me grow as an educator. At Tomei, when that opportunity arose, I was one of the first teachers to become Apple Teacher Certified. And correct me if I'm wrong, was I also had the opportunity to become one of the first Apple Learning Coaches within the district. So so I really see the power of using these devices and using them to help enhance student learning. Thank you.
I can't say it any better than how our teacher said it. I do want to add a few other things. We do have, when you look at the accessibility that Apple does offer, when you look at Chrome, somebody's excited, excuse me. When you look at Chrome and what you have to do for the extensions, some of those cost a very high amount of money. Apple's already built in with accessibility. And I am a strong advocate for students with special needs because that's where my heart is. And what I have seen with our students using their devices through accessibility has completely blown my mind. Students who didn't have that voice now have that voice, and they are able to create and participate side by side with their peers. In addition, with the MacBooks, our students do buy the MacBooks. We have the buyback program. And so when students do pay every year, from freshman year to senior year, they have the opportunity to buy back those MacBooks. And we have 80% of our seniors purchasing the MacBooks because they're starting with those MacBooks in 9th grade and taking very good care of them because they want to keep them when they leave and graduate from most of those schools. So we had 80% last year's class bought back the MacBooks.
Do they get brand new MacBooks at
They-
the beginning of their freshman year?
Yes, they do.
So everybody has their own brand new MacBook,
Yes.
If they buy it back.
when they as a freshman.
Yeah, they start with their freshman year and they,
The students who can't afford the annual fee, are they offered the same option to buy back?
yes. And we do have other opportunities for them to use funds like such as McKinney-Vento. And so McKinney-Vento, that's our funds for our students experiencing homelessness. The district uses those funds to purchase those MacBooks for the students. That is an allowable cost.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there other questions?
So, yeah,
Go right ahead, please.
Mr. Chavez. Does Apple offer ongoing grants or free training?
We do have free training from Apple. It's ongoing. Apple Teacher, we have at last count, I believe, and I wish my memory is serving me better, but we had, I think it was at the end of last year, 75% of our staff were Apple Teacher certified, and that was all free professional development. And that's available to anybody that works for the school districts. So we had custodians who are Apple teachers, we had secretaries who are Apple teachers. And we have, all the way to our teachers. Our students even want to do it too, because it is free. They want that Apple Teacher certification. It means something. They're certified.
Are there other questions? I have a few comments, not necessarily questions. I know from my other life, in my other work, Apple's a very prominent company in the K-12 industry, if you will. And it is well known that their apps are, if not, I don't know if I want to use the word superior because Mr. Talley is awfully close to me, but I do know that the apps for learning programs are well appreciated by many educators across the nation. And I can say that because I've been in their classrooms. I think I heard two concerns from Mr. Talley. One was the fees, which is not the purpose of this discussion here, and I think we have it scheduled for a work session, correct?
That is correct, madam.
The second concern that I heard from Mr. Talley was also the one that I expressed at finance, and I think we may want a little bit more information on that, but again, it's not necessarily for this conversation. And that is assurances that we do have transferability of skills. I think I relayed that was a finding from something else that I had been a part of. So maybe we could spend some time on that one. Between here and there, I want to thank all of you for your service. Your passion is amazing. And you're absolutely right. There is something seeing student agency and voice that we have not seen before the digital age. And I've seen that in about 8 other states. So it's nice to have it from my own home district and my own home state. So thank you for your service and your dedication. Appreciate that very much.
I would also just like to thank our team. I've worked with each of them very closely through the years, and I have seen them grow tremendously. And what they are offering as far as support to our staff across the entire district is phenomenal. I will put them up against anybody in the world.
High praises. I'm going to call for the vote, please, if there's no other discussion. Mr. Vickers, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mrs. Otero,
Yes.
Mr. Bennett,
Yes.
Mr. Talley,
Yes.
and I vote yes. Motion passes. On to item J, Finance Committee items. Number 3, approval of purchases. Sub item number 3, Apple Computer Incorporated Learning Innovations MacBook Air for 8th grade students. Code 241001 from Title I. I do need a motion to approve this, please.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve item J. 3.3. Apple Computer Learning Innovations MacBook Air for 8th grade students, 24101, Title I.
Thank you very much. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Mr. Bennett. It has been moved by Mr. Vickers and seconded by Mr. Bennett. Is there any discussion? Were you satisfied from the information you received, Mr.
Yes.
Talley? Okay, very good. Is there any discussion? I will call for a vote. Mr. Vickers, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mrs. Otero?
Yes.
Mr. Bennett?
Yes.
Mr. Talley?
Yes.
And I vote yes, motion passes. That moves us on to J, Finance Committee items. Number 3, approval of purchases. Sub-item number 4, school specialty learning innovations, translation earbuds for K-6 students, code 24101 from Title I funds. Do I have a motion to approve, please? I will move to approve item J3, sub-bullet 4, as previously read. Is there a second?
A second.
Thank you, Mr. Bennett. Is there any discussion?
Yes.
Mr. Talley?
So the Learning Innovations Translation earbuds, we've discussed those in the past. We've had presentations about them. I just have a couple questions about the use of them in general. The Learning Innovations Translation earbuds, how many of those do we currently have in the district? 150? And they're just dispersed through the different schools in the district, or are they only at one location?
Go ahead, Michael. Did you want to, go ahead. We're going to defer to the experts.
Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Kettler. In our ed tech department, we have a checkout system for any of the tools, and the translator earbuds are part of those tools that teachers can check out, any staff member can check out, and a teacher can advocate for a student for them to check out. And so it's on a checkout basis. So if there's a need, a monolingual student or a student who's developing their English skills, they can check them out and one of us will go to the site and set them up. And so that's how they're distributed throughout the class. And just as, do you have a question for me, sir?
No, go ahead.
Just as a note, I've set up, I don't know how many dozens of these translator headbuds because I'm a Spanish speaker myself. And if you guys could be with me when I speak into the headphones and this student is able to communicate with their teacher and their peers, it is one of the most enlightening things you'll ever see in your life. So just a little side note to that.
Awesome. Now, I don't have a paper in front of it. How many earbuds are we looking at purchasing? How many sets?
So Madam President and members of the board, Mr. Talley. So we are looking to purchase one set of earbuds per school, and that would be K through 12. And that is about 20 earbuds for each of our schools.
Okay. Is there any plan to purchase more in the future, maybe one for each student? I mean, that's probably way out of the budget, but is that something that's been discussed?
Absolutely, and that's one of the reasons that we looked at using our funding from Title I in order to support our students, because we do know that the need is there. I do, much like we talked about with the Apple devices, it's hard to just kind of hand out technology without that training. And so we don't want to get ahead of ourselves. We want to be able to order a manageable amount. But it is definitely something that we look to continue using funding for. Absolutely.
I'm
yeah.
sorry.
So obviously there are sanitary issues with using earbuds, right?
Yes. Yes, absolutely.
Yes. If you were able to get one for each, one set for each student, would it be possible to do like a MacBook buyback thing as well? So they would continue to have those and you could issue a new set for.
That is something we would have to discuss with, the vendor, and I'm not sure that they buy back earbuds. Or for their students to buy back. I mean, it's something that we can start to, the buyout, okay? We can definitely start to look at that opportunity. And obviously as we, our students, grow throughout our district, that opportunity will be there for them.
No more questions? Are there any other questions, Mr. Vickers?
Well, a couple of things, just for clarification. Title I is federal money.
Yes.
Do we get a certain amount that it's a use it or lose it amount every year, or how does that work?
Yes, we do. There is a percentage that we need to use, and in order to get that funds, the funds next year. And so we're really, diligent about making sure we spend the money to stay within those guidelines.
So you look at what all the options are that Title I could buy and you prioritize
Absolutely.
what you want, okay? And then the other thing about the technology, so if I put in those earbuds and somebody who's speaking Spanish, I could understand them completely.
Yes.
That's a handy thing to have around here. Is that right?
Just a side note, I purchased them personally for myself, and yeah, they're super cool.
That is pretty cool. May I ask how much they are for an individual to buy?
How much were these? These were in the 200 area.
Wow, very interesting. Thank
And
you.
it does require an app. That is Apple.
Like in,
Google and Android, but it is compatible
Okay.
with Apple.
thank you.
Thank you.
Are there other, questions from the members of the board? Mrs. Sotero, no? Thank you very much. I'm going to call for the vote. Mr. Vickers, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mrs. Otero?
Yes.
Mr. Bennett?
Yes.
Mr. Tally?
Yes.
And I vote yes, motion passes. Now to item J, Finance Committee items. Number 3, approval of purchases. Sub-item 6, School Health Learning Innovations C-Pen readers for K-6 elementary students. Item 24101 from Title I funds. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Tally. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Bennett. Mr. Tally has moved. Mr. Bennett has second. Is there any discussion from members of the board?
Yes, I'm not familiar with C-Pen readers. With more information, on C-Pen readers.
Madam President, members of the board, I'd like to bring Rose Trujillo up to explain the C-Pens.
Sorry.
Excuse me? My name? Yes, I'm Jessica Montano. I'm Jessica Montano. Members of the board, I'd like to introduce Rose Trujillo. Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Kettler, I am Rose Trujillo. So C-Pen readers, Mr. Tally, are portable tools. They don't require an app. They don't run on Wi-Fi, but they help our students to become independent readers and support with literacy too. So right now we have about, each school has a set of 20, and they have been a game changer in the classroom. So what they do is students are able to scan text, and it reads the text out loud to them. If they come across a word that they don't understand, they can scan it. The C-Pen reader has multiple dictionaries so that it can actually read the definition of the word for them as well. We have several teachers who are using these, several administrators who are thinking about maybe even purchasing some for their schools so that more kids have them in their hands until our students become proficient readers. What I love about the C-Pen reader is that it's good for right or left hand. It can read in Spanish. It also is able to, it has audio where you can use earbuds. This might be a little health issue here, but teachers always have alcohol wipes on hand to clean the earbuds. That's why it would be great for students who aren't proficient readers yet. One teacher's story, she has 8 students who are in the special education program, right? They come in after their class. She's in the middle of teaching math and has to stop her instruction to support the students and get them started. Her students come in now. They don't interrupt instruction. They get their word problem of the day, they scan it, and they immediately start working on their word problem of the day independently. So it's been a really game changer in the classroom and just a support to our teachers as well. Any other questions?
I don't think I'm picking on all this technology. A lot of it is because I want to make sure that we're spending the money in a wise way and make sure that the people understand. And having never even heard of the CPIN readers until a short time ago.
Same with us.
Uh,
But also, we do provide training. We have provided training to our schools. We've kind of put that on the back burner for now because we're doing the training for the interactive flat panel boards. So that's kind of taken, but we will get back on board and training all schools with the CPIN readers.
As beneficial as these are, could they not be crippling as well? As I become dependent on using the CPIN reader to read to me rather than me actually doing the work myself?
That is a question that teachers have asked a lot. So in the classroom, even on your phone, right? We have tools. If we need them, we use them. And that's what I always told my students. These are tools. If you need them, you use them. You don't use them if you don't need them, right? So it's a choice. But it also tracks the word. So when a student has to listen to it, they're looking at it too. So it's tracking each word, it's highlighting each word as it's being read to them. And it's not perfect. It doesn't scan exactly what's on the text. So they have to go back and they actually have to read the text to make sure that it matches. I've caught several students doing that. So it does kind of help with just making sure that it's saying what it's supposed to, or listening to it. Oh, that didn't make sense. Go back and reread it again. So. Welcome.
Other members of the board?
Any other questions?
Mr. Vickers, Mrs. Otero,
No.
Mr. Bennett? I think one of the interesting things that I would maybe raise for our strategic planning is this is one of those high leverage strategies that might be interesting to track how the students who use those pens actually end up performing, and we see the growth. Because it's a reasonable concern if we are offering a strategy that's transferable to their personal growth or not. So it's a fair question. Thank you, though. Thank you for the presentation.
Thank you.
If there's no other discussion, I'm going to call for the vote. Mr. Vickers,
Yes.
Mrs. Otero,
Yes.
Mr. Bennett,
Yes.
Mr. Tally,
Yes.
and I vote yes. Motion passes. We made it through item J. We are now on to item K, presentations. The first presentation is Career Technology Education. The acronym for that is CTE in Los Lunas Schools.
Madam President, members of the board, this evening, Interim Chief Academic Officer Jessica Montano has prepared a presentation on our CTE offerings in Los Lunas schools.
Madam President, members of the board, my name is Jessica Montano, and I'm going to go ahead and present to you just where we're at with our college and career pathways. I'm going to start off with a little bit of an explanation about how our CTE grants work. The money is allocated based off of statewide priorities and region priorities. These are actually conducted, surveys are conducted at a federal level. They go throughout our state and they kind of tell us where the projection is for different industries in our state. And so currently, and right now we are going through a revamping period for next year for our CTE funding, but our current funding right now, there it is, for the statewide is business management and administration, education and training, and information technology. So basically that is saying that those are the industries that are growing in our state, and that's where we need to put our focus. For our region is right smack in the center of New Mexico, and we just wrap around Albuquerque. So Albuquerque's not included in our region, but region 2, the priorities in this area is architecture and construction, arts, technology, communication, and health sciences. So that's where the funding is prioritized. We have other programs that are not on the priority list that we use other state fundings for. And there's allowable expenses for that. So this is a little bit dry, and I know you guys have the list, but here is a list of our pathways. And I'm going to be honest in that sometimes we have to change direction in the classes that were offered based off of our instructors. And that's a little bit heartbreaking because sometimes we can put a lot of money into a program and then an instructor leaves and
To find instructors in CTE is kind of like finding a unicorn, because you need to find somebody who is can teach in the classroom and has the certification and has that skill, but they also need to be, you know, knowledgeable in the industry. So a lot of times our pathways are indicative of the instructors that we actually have available. We are growing our programs. I'm not gonna lie, pandemic, we took a hit. And the reason is because if you have a student who starts their freshman year on a pathway and we took 2 years away from them, those programs in their third and fourth year, those completer classes that complete those pathways, we didn't have the students, they couldn't take those classes because they hadn't had that time period to do so. So we're building back a lot of our programs, and we're almost to a point where we're looking at third year and fourth year programs, you know, actually thriving again. But it's just taken a little bit of time to recover from that. In the next slide, the next few slides are really just our programs, but I did want to highlight some things that we're doing. We have started an engineer pathway at Century High. And this is an incredible, this is really exciting because we have a lot of kids that are interested in it, and it's a great opportunity. And I think it's one of those things that I'm really excited about. We're also creating and building an entrepreneurship pathway at Century High. So that's exciting as well. Some programs that we've got thriving right now is our welding program. We have a strong connection with UNM Valencia campus, and we partner with them on allowing for our students to get that dual credit and also to get certifications. We have also partnered with ProStart for culinary arts. Again, students leaving, and we just started this last year, so we're in our second year of ProStart. So once we have students who've been in that program for 4 years, they'll walk out with certifications as well in hospitality. And we have a strong program in our health science. We are building a biomed program at UNM or at Valencia High School. We have 2 years in that induction of that program, and it's moving into our third year next year. And then we also have allied health careers at Los Lunas High School, and we do have students coming out of that with CNA certification after 4 years of completing of that program. So here's a list of everything that we have and everything that we're building. We're also another place that we're building strong program in is criminal justice at Los Lunas High School. And also business management is new to Los Lunas High School this year, and we've already begun to build a couple more sections out for that. So it seems to be pretty popular with our students. And then if we go to the next slide, we have support systems other than those classes itself. We have built support systems around our CTE program to support our students in those programs. One of the things that we do, and I know Los Lunas Middle School spoke a little bit about their career exploration class. We also have a similar class. It's a study skills class at Valencia Middle School, but they also do a career exploration program. I spoke before up here about Transfer VR, which is a virtual reality career exploration program that we have our students use. But the opportunities in middle school to sort of test out some of those careers, get an idea of what they might want to take as a high school student is the idea, is that we create that urge or that excitement in that grade. We have work-based learning at all 3 of our high schools. We have an amazing teacher, Chris O'Connor, who works with our students, and in our career-based learning, students are out in the workforce and they're actually getting paid. But it's a little bit different than an internship because these are actually, they don't necessarily line up with our different career pathways. They can, but they don't have to. However, our paid internships do line up with our CTE classes, and this is new this year. We've had internships in the past, but this year we were actually We worked on a grant with Innovation Zones out of PED, New Mexico, PED, and using that grant, we were able to pay students paid internships, and they fall in line with those CTE classes. So we have some kids working in the health careers department, health careers. We have some sheet metal, we have some automotive students working in automotive, and we're paying for those internships. Also spoken about with Wilson-Ness Middle School earlier tonight is School Links. We just purchased this again with the Innovation Zones grant last year. We just starting to implement it this year. It is a huge, huge program. So it's going to take our counselors some time to get used to it, but it is a platform which allows our students to explore colleges, explore internship possibilities, work possibilities, trades, trade union possibilities. Students start their next step plan, which is a document that the state mandates all of our students to start at their 8th grade year and complete their 12th grade year, which basically is a way to align their classes with their post-secondary goals. And so this program does a lot of that to help again support our career technology education. And then we currently have 2 career TOSAs, teachers on special assignment. And currently they are serving K through 12 for career exploration. And I know that Wilson-Ness Middle School also spoke about that earlier this evening. They help out with not just career fairs, but they help establish program or opportunities like mock trial for our students. They help with FAFSA nights. They put together those nights. They help bringing in career fairs. In fact, we have a career fair April 23rd that you'll hear more about. Young Bloods is a partnership we have with them where they bring in industries in our area at a career fair. And so using the Innovation Zones grant to pay for our career TOSAs, we're actually going to move our career TOSAs to each of our high schools to serve so that they are there with our students on a daily basis. And we're going to put our focus there to help our students really prepare for that post-secondary opportunities that they're looking for. So those are some of our support systems that we have in place for career technical education. And then we have the future for career pathways. So one of our partners in CTE is UNM Valencia campus. And they have come to us with the idea of really building out an opportunity for students to utilize them for different career paths. And so we're partnering with Belen. And the reason that we go back to that Region E that I spoke about, we're all in the same region, so we have the same priorities. And so if we can start to work with each other to provide opportunities for our students, is what UNM Valencia campus is attempting to do. So this upcoming year, Belen gets to choose one career pathway and we get to choose a pathway. Students get to utilize both pathways, whichever one they want. And we will be able to use it for juniors and seniors, and it's a small cohort of students. It's late, I'm sorry. Cohort of students that will take the introductory classes at our high school and then be able to take those completer courses at UNM Valencia campus. And then I believe their goal is to really use the workforce center that they've started on the west side. And so we haven't chosen a pathway yet because we're doing a little bit of research with our high schools to see which pathway would be the best opportunity for our students. And the idea is that throughout the years we'll grow, hopefully next year, looking at a couple more pathways that they would add for us. So that's a little bit about our partnership and a little bit about the future. Hopefully we can have more opportunities for our students. And that's what CTE is all about, is giving our students more opportunities, regardless of what their post-secondary goals are. And I will stand for questions.
Mr. Vickers, any questions?
I don't have a question. It's very exciting. I hope the students feel the same way, that there's opportunities. Actually, I do have a question. The $14 an hour, that's paid by the employer?
No, that is actually paid by us, and we're using the Innovation Zones grant to pay them for that internship. So the Innovation Zone grant is a new grant. It's only a couple of years old. We were able to apply for it last year, and that was one of our priorities, was to have a paid internship for our students.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Mrs. Otero, any questions?
No, thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
Mr. Bennett?
Yeah, how many kids we have an internship right now?
We have 10 students in an internship.
Pretty much what field are they?
So we have them in some health fields, auto mechanics and sheet metal. So it is exciting. And it's exciting that they get paid, and they're also learning, you know, how to fill out a time card and all that responsibility of being employed, so.
Mr. Tally?
Yeah, the introduction to engineering, you mentioned that was at Century. Is that also offered at?
We offer it both at Century High, Valencia High, and Los Lunas High.
Okay.
Yes.
And then with the paid internships, where are they? Like, is it just businesses in town that are?
Yes, yes. I believe Presbyterian and Tricor. And I believe, there is a small business, and I wish I had the name of it, that, works on race cars in Peralta, and I can't remember the name of the company. So there's peppered throughout our community, and they are inside of our community.
Awesome.
Yeah,
You also spoke about a career fair that's.
yes.
Before that, is there any help with the students in building a resume or something like that? You know, I've been to career fairs before, and that's something we need.
Yes,
Jobs
absolutely.
resume.
So yes, our career choices have been working on pulling small groups to do those resumes. Chris O'Connor has also been working to pull kids to do resumes. It's part of most of our completer classes as well. And School Links is also going to have a place where students can keep kind of all that information. Starting from 8th grade, they kind of build their own profile. And it actually allows them to not only store their information, but then be able to transfer it into documents such as a resume or an application. And it kind of catapults them into those pieces.
Thank you.
Madam President, Mr. Tally, members of the board, may I also add, today, when I was at Rotary this afternoon, for the Rotary meeting, a couple of the Rotarians were very excited because they're going to Valencia High School in it may be this week or next, to do mock interviews for these students who have prepared resumes and to help them prepare for an actual interview. So there is some community involvement in this, which I think is good because it's exposing not only our community to our students, but our students to the community and helping them prepare for the actual interview process.
That's great. Thank you.
Do you have more questions?
Nope,
I just have one question. I'm a little concerned with students who were starting in a pathway before COVID. Then the bottom fell out, as we know.
Yeah.
These look to be all electives classes with maybe a few in here that could cross over into a requirement for graduation. So then when students have used some of their elective credits, how did we help those students? I mean, if you're starting and you've used your 2 or 4 elective credits and now you're.
So I believe this is the last class that was in high school during COVID. And we did have different opportunities for them to earn those credits in elective. What I mean by taking the hit with CTE is that our students are young, right? So they haven't had those introductory classes. So we're having students, I'm trying to think of like the timeline, but like right now, level 4, you would have to be a senior to take a level 4 class. And so if you were a sophomore or junior during COVID, you wouldn't be able to take that level 4. Our teachers did an amazing job of when they came back, you know, providing them instruction in those elective classes to try and, you know, help them gain more knowledge. Like for an example, if I came in as a freshman or a sophomore during COVID, and then now coming back as a junior or senior, I'm taking welding 1 and 2, and that's as far as I get. You know, our teachers did the best that they could to give them more experience. And that's where a lot of our work study or our work-based learning has come in, where we've been able to take students and help them find jobs during their high school years and help them to gain those elective credits. So we did use work-based learning a lot for that.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I will say in terms of, I just want to add a comment about the level of preparation that Chris O'Connor does with our students. I was an invited guest at a different district in terms of their mock interviews. And it was a very nice opportunity to be invited. And then I was invited to participate in the mock interviews at Los Angeles High School. And Mrs. O'Connor had been a former teacher of mine. She knew that praise was rare, and she received an A+. It was an outstanding event, absolutely outstanding. And she received the highest of praises from the persons in the room. So I'm glad she's still working in conjunction with this. Did a nice job of preparing students.
Yes, I am too. She is a gem, and I am honored to work with her.
Understood. Thank you very much. Thank
Good
you
for
for the
kids.
presentation. Dr. Kettler.
Madam President, members of the board, also this evening, we have Director of Assessment and Accountability, Carla Dow, to present some student achievement data.
Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Kettler, my name's Carla Dow. That is not the. And there's one thing that you don't want to do when presenting data is present it to a group of people after they've had a very large lunch or at the very end of a long day. But we will do our best to get through this now, so. Okay, so we are going to look at our beginning of the year and middle of the year student achievement data for elementary school, K through 2nd grade. We use iStation, that is mandated by the state for iStation. For grades 3 through 8, we use Cognia is the platform, and it is New Mexico Measures of Student Achievement, and for science as well. We have moved away for our high school students. We used to use NWEA MAPS testing, and doing some research over the last few years, I have moved us away from MAPS testing because we just were not seeing the gains or the achievement levels when it came to SAT scores because of MAPS. We were marching kids in, taking a test, and the data wasn't what we were looking for. Horizon Education is what we've gone to for high school now, and it prepares it works directly with College Board. So the questions that the students take on that, they are directly related and directly come from College Board type questions. So the scores that we get from that give us a really good indication of where our kids will fall once they take SAT. So our 9th graders and 10th graders take the PSAT, and our 11th and 12th graders will take SAT. 11th graders mostly, but when we have reclassified seniors as juniors and they're catching up on credits, then we give that to them as well. Okay, so those are the assessments that we use. Next slide. So this first slide is our overall district reading. So Cognia, New Mexico Measures of Student Success, it measures it in 3 areas. It's approaching your target, nearing target, or it's below, and then on target. So I chose to look at for this presentation is just kids that are on target to be proficient at end of the year testing. So this is called IMESA, and it's our interim assessment. We give it 3 times a year to students. And then of course, there's the big state test at the end of the year. So this is by grade level. It's all of our district kindergartners. The light blue is beginning of the year, dark blue is middle of the year. So kinder, first, second, third, all the way to eighth grade, we use this. Okay, next slide. So now we'll look at individual grade levels by school, by individual schools. So we have Ann Parish there. Again, the light blue is the beginning of the year for kindergarten reading. And the dark blue is their middle of the year. Middle of the year, we moved it from January. We now give it in December. When I started in this department, I asked teachers when they would rather give this assessment, and it was overwhelming. Please let us give it in December, because when they come back from Christmas in January, it's hard to get a good reading. So we do give this assessment in August when kids come in, and then in December, and then again at the end of the year in May. And this is our first grade iStation reading. And one thing, if you can go back. Sometimes you will see schools that are much higher and much lower. I always like to look at growth, and I believe you have the Excel spreadsheets that I sent as well. And on those Excel spreadsheets, there's different calculations for growth. So you will see a percent growth. So if a school went from 21% to 23%, that's a point growth. But then there's also a percentage growth. So you'll see those calculations on the spreadsheets that you were given as well. Okay. Next. And again, second grade iStation. Third grade. So you'll see Los Lunas Family School Digital Academy there. There are zeros. We had no students testing at that grade level. Or if we did, they were below the number that they will calculate. Fourth grade reading. Fifth grade. And sixth grade reading.
Can I just ask a quick question?
Yes, absolutely.
The 100%, is that where you would expect someone to be at the end of that grade?
That would be our goal.
Okay.
Yeah. That would be our goal, is to have 100% of our kids on target. So this INSL, like I said, it measures which kids are on target to be proficient at the end of the year at their grade level. Okay, next slide. And this is our seventh grade. We have the Family School Digital Academy, Los Lunas Middle School, and Valencia Middle School, and these are our reading scores. And this is eighth grade reading. And then we move to overall district math by grade level. And overall, we noticed that, can you go back one, please? Overall, we noticed that our third graders and fourth graders, our math scores are extremely low. And if you think about it, those were our kiddos that were in what, probably kinder first, and even second grade, coming out of COVID. And so there's some learning gaps there that we need to address. Okay, next slide. And then these are our kinder numbers for math. First grade. So if you look at the Digital Academy, I think there was 2 kids there because their numbers are much smaller. So that will make a huge difference when you're looking at that number. So both of those kids were proficient, were on target. Next slide. Second grade. And you can see that dip again there across the board. Third grade. Fourth. Fifth grade. And sixth grade. And now we'll move to middle school math. And eighth grade. I'll go ahead and stop there for a second. Does anybody have any questions so far on those? Mr. Vickers?
Like I said, a comment, the these numbers are incredibly frustrating. I mean, what are we doing for the more than 50% of the students in almost every case that aren't where they ought to be? What are we doing?
Well, I know that we have our curriculum that we've had Envisions for how long, ever since I've been in the district, which is 6 years now that we've had Envisions. And that is the program that we use for math for the elementary. I know middle school has gone to the new middle school math, and we are seeing some really good indications out of there. So math will be up for adoption soon. So that's something that we really need to look for. We are doing some training with a couple of professional agencies that come in and do some training for math. And so that's just something that our curriculum department is really looking at as to what are the issues? Is it training? Is it materials that we need to really look at? Does that answer?
Is there individual intervention with students that are so far behind the rest, rather than looking at the overall curriculum? Is there some intervention that's going on with these students that aren't up to speed?
Most teachers, and I can't speak for all, and this is at a school level, work with small groups. They'll pull kids for small groups. We kind of went away from what they called walk to intervention before. There's two ways to look at that. Some people find it ineffective to take a group of kids and for a certain amount of time, they're separate and they do intervention versus intervention on the spot. So if you see a kid struggling while you're giving a general lesson, you intervene on the spot. They know exactly, at the time, in real time, they're getting that help. So there's some different ways to look at it. Small group intervention is typically what we're doing to address those needs.
Like I say, it's frustrating to look at these numbers. Very frustrating.
I agree.
Did you have a comment?
Dr. Osowski, members of the board, I would like to add that we've been focusing on observation and feedback cycles. So our administrators are spending more time in classrooms and then spending time after that with a follow-up feedback cycle or loop with the teachers to talk about what they were seeing in the classroom in terms of instructional strategies, engagement, all of those sorts of things, so that we're not leaving people on islands, so to speak, to teach, but that we're helping to collaborate with teachers and help them grow, because sometimes we don't see something that maybe we need to improve on. And so by using our administrators as true instructional leaders, in addition to our instructional coaches in the classrooms, we're spending an awful lot of time teaching model lessons for teachers, giving teachers coaching. I've been in schools like Ann Parish where they're really focusing on them breaking down the standards in terms of math. And we've hired, I keep wanting to call him David Williams.
Matt Williams.
Matt Williams from Berlin, who used to be in Berlin and is now a consultant. And I've sat in on his sessions with Ann Parish teachers on 2 occasions, and he helps them drill down to what are the skills that the standard is specifically asking for or wanting the kids to gain from this, and then helping teachers to eliminate all the other stuff and focus on those skills, teaching those skills and then assessing those skills so we know if they've got it. So there's a lot of things, additional things happening. It's slow, unfortunately. I think we'd all like to see much more growth. But at this point, we're seeing mostly small increments in growth, and it is again slow.
Mr. Bennett, did you have any questions?
No, I agree. I think it is little small, steps in growth. I think we can step it up, start moving up a little further, but yeah, I mean, like you said, I guess it's a matter of getting the teachers trained to teach the kids.
Mr. Talley.
If we look at other school districts in the state and see how they're doing academically and what curriculums they're using. Have we done something that's something that I think Mr. Bennett had spoke about a little bit earlier. We're doing something wrong and
these numbers are consistent with numbers across the state. I mean, of course, there are some districts that are a little different, but they're pretty consistent with what we're seeing across the state.
And I was scrolling through the different slides, trying to see if there was a location or demographic or something. I mean, it seems to be fairly consistent across the district.
So I have a couple of comments. First of all, Dr. Kettler, I heard you say that we've hired a consultant to help us go back through and break down standards so we understand what essential skills, knowledge, skills, or abilities are required within a standard. I am frustrated and alarmed that we're still doing that kind of work. That work is 25 years old. And I know on the PED website, 3 years ago, priority standards were already identified and there was some pretty amazing work. I actually recommended that work to a national study in terms of somebody's already done the work to identify the priority standards or the focus standards for each grade, especially since about 85% of our standards in the state of New Mexico are Common Core standards. So this is not new work. That we have young instructors who may not understand these skills, I absolutely appreciate that. They're walking in and they've maybe not seen this kind of work, but that cannot be across our district. And I am really concerned about alignment now. From your experience, were our scores higher in the past with the previous assessment, interim assessment? So it gave people a false impression that we were doing really terrific, because NWEA for the MAPS testing is highly regarded in the assessment community. I mean, highly regarded. So that we're not seeing, you didn't see the kind of results that you wanted to see was my first red flag. What?
They weren't matching up. So we were seeing higher MAP scores that wasn't translating into SAT scores, into students. SAT is marked by how ready are kids for freshman college courses, right? So at benchmark, we were at about 14% of our students ready at benchmark for college courses. So when we looked at our MAP scores at the end of the year, they were much higher than that. So those two weren't correlating for us very well. So we've moved to this assessment. One thing, I mean, we are judged on state assessments and testing. One thing that I do want to say is that state testing is one data point. And so when you have students, I had one of my own children was brilliant girl, was terrible test taker. So teachers are looking at in-class work. They're looking at observations of students in different projects. Not every kid takes a test well, but they can show proficiency on a poster or a presentation. So I think when we triangulate that data, we get a better overall picture of what our kids can really do. But this is what we're evaluated on, right? These are the numbers that the state looks at, and these are the numbers that our community looks at. So of course, we want these to look better. We want our kids to achieve at a higher rate.
I would agree with you that test taking is one data point. However, the research is incredibly clear that students who are well prepared and not only in test taking strategies, and we definitely do not want to become Texas, and yes, I said that out loud, but at the same time, I hear the frustration, and it was expressed earlier, reasonably so. And I appreciate that you've moved to another assessment to see if we can find better alignment. But I think I will go out and say that this is, yes, we are seeing some really terrific things happening in the schools. We heard 2 marvelous presentations. We hear that we're putting in a lot of strategies. We hear that we're providing as many resources that we can to help students learn. But bottom line, we've got to have proficient students in reading and math. Bottom line. all of that doesn't mean anything if we send kids out who cannot read and do the basics in math. Am I fair with saying that? So I think that's a focus area. We've got to be doing some things here. We've got to, maybe we need to spend some more time on a couple of board sessions. I don't know. But I definitely heard my colleagues' frustration, and that's mine
One
too.
last comment.
Yes, sir.
So, a few years ago, we were rated at the bottom of the United States along with Louisiana. And Louisiana changed something and did something different, and I've seen it in the editorial pages of the newspaper and all this, and they're sort of at the midpoint in the middle of the pack now in the nation. We, you know, I don't know what PED is doing or has done, but maybe we need to just break out of that and find out what Louisiana has done and copy it. I mean, because if we're about in the middle of the pack in New Mexico, that means we're still at the bottom in the nation. And we can't be satisfied with that at all. So we gotta look for something different.
Well stated, Mr. Vickers. These items were for informational purposes only. No action is needed or warranted at this time. And I want to thank those who presented to us, and
So you're gonna present the PSAT benchmarks?
oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. No.
She thought she would get it here.
I've been through us 3 times today. There should be a limit, right? I apologize. No, thank you, Mr. Talley. I was happy to move on.
So this is PSAT 8-9 for reading. The benchmark is 720. That's what they set at. And so these are our numbers, and they should, I apologize, you shouldn't have percent signs after them. Those are just the actual scores. And so they're pretty beginning of the year. This is a new assessment. This assessment comes with embedded instruction. So when teachers see that students are not doing well, immediately they can assign them different assignments. It comes with ready-made teacher lessons that the teachers can go to for those students that are not reaching that benchmark. And so, like I said, it is new this year. We've had quite a bit of training for our teachers on it, and we continue to provide training for them. So the numbers are a little flat. What you will see once we get up into the higher levels is this assessment. It's a middle of the road questions. As kids do better,
It's adaptive.
it's adaptive, so it moves them into higher questioning, or it keeps them on the same level. The good thing is, even though the scores aren't reflecting it, we're seeing more students being pushed into the higher level questioning. So whereas beginning of the year, you might have had 20 kids in a class that were pushed to the higher level questioning, middle of the year, I may see 32 kids that were pushed to that higher. Their scores might not reflect it, but they're pushed to the higher questioning.
That's hopeful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's very good.
That is. Next slide. And this is a 10th grade reading. Again, they're, like I say, they're pretty flat. And they did tell us when we took the initial training that that was something that we would expect, is to see kind of a flat line the first few assessments that we take. And then SAT 11th grade. So we're about midway. So the benchmark is 800. So we have a ways to go to get our kiddos there. And then this is our 12th graders that have taken the SAT. Either they were reclassified, they weren't classified as juniors the prior year, so they didn't take SAT. So that's what this is. Okay, next one. So then this is math benchmark. We actually performed better at the high school level in math. 10th grade, not so much there. 11th. And 12th. And so like I say, across the board on all these testing, they're flat line. And so they told us we would expect that the first couple assessments until the kids get used to it, teachers get used to it. And so, but like I said, that's the benchmark, 800, and we're about in the middle of the road. So we have a ways to go.
I know it's tough being the person who has to deliver the data. So you took our slings and arrows very well. Thank you.
It's the bad news sometimes. And I do have subgroup information that I gave you. I apologize for the typo. It says subground, I think, instead of subgroup. Autocorrect got the best of me at the last minute, so. But that's, if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
I think we've put you through enough.
Okay.
Excuse you.
All right, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Now, these items were for informational purposes only. No action is needed or warranted at this time. We are now moving on to item M. I would like to move to amend, I've already done that, I apologize. I am moving to revise Board Policy J2550, student harassment, bullying, cyberbullying prevention by adding a definition of promoting bullying. Specifically, under definitions, I am seeking the board's consideration to add language that defines and describes promoting bullying. The addition of promoting bullying would then be added to the list of prohibited activities listed in the district student behavior handbook and could result in disciplinary action. The proposed language is promoting bullying. Promoting bullying means to encourage interest in or draw attention to a prohibited event or activity that may occur or has occurred. Promoting includes participating in the prohibited events or activity as an engaged bystander, witness, or observer who can be encouraging participation in or citing the prohibited event or activity. Promoting includes sharing information about the prohibited activity or event for the purposes of encouraging participation or inciting the prohibited activity or event. Prohibited sharing includes, but is not limited to, socializing details of the prohibited event or activity by announcing, broadcasting, writing, verbalizing, or posting any information about the prohibited event or activity using any format that can include, but is not limited to, use of social media, digital communication such as telephone calls, text, emails, or video or oral digital conferencing. Prohibited events or activities are those listed in the district student discipline handbook or New Mexico state or federal laws. Do I have a second? Okay, so the motion, without a second, this motion dies. Moving on to O, new business, board member requests for topics for upcoming board work sessions and or board meetings. At this time, I will ask if there are any board member requests for topics to be discussed on upcoming work sessions and or regular or special meetings. Once the items have been listed, I will announce that the information was for the purpose of gathering this input. Members of the board, do you have any topics?
Brett,
Yes, sir.
I would like to have put on there the
Thank you, Mr. Bennett. Anything else? That's good. Okay.
Madam President,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to, this policy that you would like to have that as a discussion item, perhaps in a, or part of a work group. I think that the direction of this might be correct. I just am hesitant to vote on it without giving it more thought and maybe a little bit of wordsmithing.
Sure.
So I think it'd be great to discuss at least.
Yes, Madam President. College that maybe have legal look at that to make sure we're not crossing over anything or.
They already have.
Okay.
Yes. Mr. Vickers, did you have any topics for upcoming work sessions or?
No, thank you.
Mrs. Otero? No. I would like to add review of policy G 1600, staff participation in political activities as a work session topic. G 1600, staff participation in political activities as a work session topic. This brings us to the announcement of meetings as allowed by the Open Meetings Act and the District Open Meetings Resolution. On occasion, a quorum of the board members attend the same function, including those held at school sites at the district level, as well as sports functions, conferences, workshops, trainings, and community events. Board members will refrain from discussing and or acting on Los Lunas Schools Board of Education issues in those settings. In addition, only official meetings are published, and if other meetings are scheduled, they will be announced in accordance with the Open Meetings Act. With that being said, I would like to announce the following meetings. April 6th through 8th, 2024, the National School Boards Association Annual Conference and Exhibition in New Orleans Ernest N. Memorial Convention Center, New Orleans, Louisiana. This is an association meeting and training, and a quorum of the board members will be in attendance. April 9th, 2024, Finance Committee meeting at 3:00 p.m. in the boardroom. Also on April 9th, the Audit Committee meeting, 4:00 p.m. Either the central office conference room or boardroom. Attendance is by Audit Committee members only. On April 9th, 2024, the Parent Advisory Public Hearing for the 24-25 fiscal year budget at 6:00 p.m. in the CO boardroom. This is information regarding the budget for the 2024-25 fiscal year, and a quorum of board members may be in attendance. On April 10th, 2024, the New Mexico School Boards Association Region 4 Spring Meeting, 5:30 to 8:30 p.m. It will be held in Magdalena, New Mexico. This is an association meeting and training. A quorum may be in attendance. April 23rd, 2024, board work session, 3:00 to 5:00 p.m. in the central office boardroom. The topics for the 2024-2025 fiscal year budget is going to be information regarding the budget for the 24-25 fiscal year. Inclusion, implementation, and partnership with the Indiana University, Los Lunas Schools Students with Disabilities, specifically what we offer, what we do, what is required, what is needed specific to students with serious cognitive challenge or other disabilities such as autism, and a quorum of the board members may be in attendance. Finally, on April 23rd, 2024, regular board meeting at 6:00 p.m. in the central office boardroom. Before I call for a motion to adjourn, I would ask that the board members remain seated for a few minutes after the meeting as signatures are needed. Do I have a motion for adjournment? Mr. Bennett, do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Bennett and Mr. Vickers have moved and seconded to adjourn the meeting. I would call for a vote. Mr. Vickers.
Yes.
Mrs. Otero.
Yes.
Mr. Talley.
Yes.
Mr. Bennett.
Yes.
And I vote yes. Motion passes. Meeting is adjourned at 9:53 p.m. I think you need this one, madam. This one. This one. This one.